Yeah.
Someone who's opening.
Probably see it live.
Sure enough, I'm leaving. Brain doesn't click in where they were. Came. Lying back down. It's street lights too.
I just hate sentences.
I didn't have my light down. That's the house of yours.
Add fuel to the fire. Is there a comment or no?
No,
Yeah.
This will be interesting.
That's what it's 100%. Table.
How much was it? So it was funny. Because unless it's a can't.
no.
Don't find it because it's that right now. It doesn't mean that the officer for whatever, but it doesn't. Yeah.
No.
Thank you so much. Where's Jay?
This is us. There's
Skiing. Jamie's not
this is
here?
us.
We have him on chat though, so we can hear what's going on.
He's on the chat. I want to really can.
What's the address for the appeal? Oh.
Yes.
53 South 17th Street.
Those doesn't chance. Gotcha. Yeah, they say about 6. So we're going to say higher.
You have the colors into it.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to 2023. This is our first meeting of the year, January Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting. We hear 2 types of cases tonight. We would have variance and special permits, and we do have an appeal of a code enforcement order tonight. If you plan to testify, we will have everyone to give sworn testimony so that we will save time. I can swear everyone in as a group. So if you plan on testifying, if you'll stand up, raise your right hand. You promise that the testimony gives nothing but the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do. Thank you. Okay. When your case is called up, the applicant will have 5 minutes to speak on the case. We do not deduct time for questions that the board asks of you. If you plan to get the Duncan factors on the record, we ask that you do that within your 5-minute time frame. If you are here from the community to speak about the application, you will have 3 minutes to speak about the application. And as long as you are here present, we will allow you to speak. Again, we do not deduct time if we ask you questions. There are only 3 board members present tonight. You have to get 3 yes votes for your request to get approved. So that means you have to get all of us to vote yes. Are there any preliminary matters for us to handle before we go through the printed agenda?
Yes, there is a board order extension and 2 tabling requests.
Okay,
The board order extension is for 6790 Sawmill Road,
okay,
special permit.
will that come forward?
Thank you. Great, I think we can.
Oh, I forgot to mention, there is have a seat, sir.
Okay.
There is a sign-in sheet at the table. If you can, when you come up to the table, you can print your name on that sheet. It just helps the court reporter understand spellings. So if you can print legibly. Thank you. Go ahead and state your name, sir, whether you're not even sworn in.
My name is Dan Rittenhouse.
Is that microphone green light on?
Yes, it is.
You can push them.
Push
Fine.
It's on. Okay. No, I guess it wasn't.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm here to get an extension for a previous board order for 6790 Sawmill Road. I work for a company called Flint Environmental. The property is owned by True North Energy. It's a gas station convenience store. And they've had a release of petroleum chemicals to the subsurface. And we are in the process of cleaning that up for them to meet the rules established by the Ohio Bureau of Underground Storage tank regulations. So in 2017, we've got this board order here to allow us to have a mobile remediation system sit on the property. And that's what I'd like to do now is to get an extension for that for another 5 years. We ran into some other zoning issues after we got the special order and weren't able to get it done. And now we're to the point where we finally got everything in place and we'd like to proceed. So we have to get this extended.
Okay.
5 years sounds like a long time.
What's the unit do? What's it?
It's a mobile remediation system that cleans up soil and groundwater once petroleum products have been released into it. You consider it like a big industrial vacuum cleaner. It sucks the groundwater out, treats it, and discharges it it'll be the sanitary sewer in this case. And we get permits for all that.
How long have you been in place?
We have not been in place with it yet. So we started the process in 2017. And you're right, it's been a long 5 years. We ran into some legacy issues. The property itself had been torn down and rebuilt. And in the process of doing that, there were some legacy issues, I guess you'd say, with the previous site plan that took a while to get worked out. And that was probably 3 or 4 years at the time. So once we got that done, then we made progress, but
So now you're ready to execute basically?
yeah.
And it's gonna take 5 years?
No, well, yeah, it'll take it could take anywhere from 5 to 6 years to clean the property up
Wow.
in this process. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's pretty typical.
I'm good.
Okay, is there a motion?
So I move that we extend the board order.
Second?
Okay, motion carried.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Chair Paul Bailey.
Yes, extension granted, thank you.
Yeah.
Next matter?
Thank
The
you.
next matter is tabling for BZA 22-006, 1089 Harry Street.
Okay, will the applicant for that property come forward?
Hey, Adam,
Harry on Perry Street.
since no one's using that one over there.
Thank you. Okay, can you state your name whether or not you've been sworn in?
My name is Dave Perry and I have been sworn.
Okay, go ahead with your request.
Yes, members of the board, thank you. I'm here to request that application number 1 be tabled. We would intend to have it heard next month, but neither the architect nor builder are able to be with me this evening, and I believe both of their testimonies will be important for the board.
Okay. Your motion?
I move that we table 1089 Perry Street.
Wait, you're supposed to be heard tonight. You're
Yeah.
saying, was there anybody here that was, planning on speaking about 1089? Would you like to speak to whether or not it should be tabled.
What's the purpose of tabling?
So when a person requests a tabling, they're asking to have it be heard at a later date.
Right, I understand.
And so what he's saying is his architect and contractor, builder were not able to be here tonight to speak to the application. He would like to have them present when he presents the case. So he's asking it to be tabled to another date.
Well, I guess our concern is if the proposal.
Can you, ma'am, if you want to speak, wait, hold on a second. I'm asking if you want to speak to it. If you're saying yes, then I'll have you come up, state your name, and you can speak to it on the mic.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to speak? You can. You can come forward. You just can't speak from there because I guess have to have your name and state your name on the record and at the mic.
All right, I guess I'm.
But ma'am,
Sorry, okay. I have a question.
state your name, please.
Julia Cumming.
And you were sworn in?
Yes, I was.
Thanks. Okay, now go ahead.
I'm sorry, I guess I feel concerned. Is it our decision at the table, or you're just asking our opinion?
Yes,
Oh,
you came
Okay,
as a,
I guess we are concerned about the project as it's currently designed.
Mhm.
And I was hopeful when I heard about tabling that they were going to maybe make some more modifications, but if it's going to stay the same, I guess I don't know what this board needs to hear from the other side. I mean, we're here tonight, so.
Yeah,
I guess
so,
that's our view, is we're here, but it's not going to change. I don't know what you guys need to hear from, so.
no, so the tabling does not necessarily mean that they're going to make changes to their proposal. It just means that they want it to be heard a different date.
Yeah.
So
There's an opportunity for you.
there's
to
opportunity,
Engage
right?
them if you have things that you'd like to see different.
You have the microphone and you can state your concerns and maybe that will,
Oh, okay, so it doesn't have to be voted on, but we can still state our
you can
concerns.
state your concerns.
Okay,
And then maybe that will bend his ear to say maybe that they need to come to you, because if you're gonna state these concerns when you come back, when it is put back on the agenda, then maybe it would behoove him to speak with you before that time.
okay. This project is located in the Harrison West neighborhood, so there is an organization that he has spoken with. But I don't think we had enough conversations about this project.
Okay.
So I guess, would that be beneficial to you?
Sure, we can talk.
Okay.
I guess these are our concerns. If we're ready for it. And I did have some slides.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is, you're saying you have some concerns, he's saying he'll talk with you, and you guys can do that outside of this.
Okay, we can tell them our concerns offline. We
Yes.
don't have to do it during the meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So if we vote yes to postpone this, it will not be heard tonight. New notices will go out of when it will be back on the agenda, so you will be informed of the date, and then you can come back to the next meeting when it will be on the agenda. Okay, is everybody clear? Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. Thank you.
Okay. Mhm. Okay. You have a motion.
Have a motion to table.
Second,
Okay.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, tabling granted.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
And the final tabling is for BZA 22-025, 1035 Atchison.
Okay, will the applicant please come forward? Please state your name and whether or not you've been sworn.
Ryan Paolini, I have not been sworn.
Okay, well, I saw you standing there, sitting there, and when I asked for everybody to, if you're going to testify, to stand and raise your hand, why didn't you stand and raise your hand?
Oh, I just didn't, I thought it was like for something specific, like we're just here to get our, this project tabled, and that's it.
Okay, so you didn't think that you were testifying?
Well, I just didn't know what,
You didn't think you were going to speak?
I don't know, it's,
All right, raise your right hand. I promise that the testimony I give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please say I do.
I did.
Thank you.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen of the board, we request that that our project gets tabled for the next meeting because we had three other variances that were approved by the Near East Area Commission that were not on the agenda, and we were in contact with Adam about all this, so we just need those three additional variances put on the agenda for the next meeting, that's all.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there anybody here tonight that was planning to speak about this application? Okay. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to table.
Second.
Okay, motion.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Chair Pompeo.
Yes.
Okay.
Extension grant, tabling granted, sorry.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we done with preliminary matters?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I think we have one appeal to be heard. 753 South 17th Street is the owner and the city here tonight? Yes. Both parties coming forward? Perfect. Okay, if the city can go first with their presentation. Okay, please state your name for the record, please, and when that you were sworn in.
Yes, I was sworn in. It's Paolo Turner.
Okay.
I am Omalara Dairo. I was sworn in.
Okay, thank you. Can you guys both sign the, sheet too? Thank you.
I'm with the City of Columbus Code Enforcement, and I received a complaint in regards to the property at 753 South 17th Street. Upon my arrival, I saw where a newer fence has been installed at this corner of Sycamore and South 17th. So in the front yard area, well, first off, Exhibit A is the violation notice. And it makes note that the vision clearance is being blocked at two intersections. The first intersection is at the street at South 17th and at Sycamore. And then there's a alley behind there called Putnam Alley, and Sycamore is the second vision clearance area. I've also included the section of code as Exhibit B, letting you know that at an alley intersection, you have to have a 10-foot by 10-foot by 10-foot triangle, unobstructed view, so that you can see oncoming traffic, possible pedestrians walking down the sidewalk as you're pulling up to that intersection. The second Exhibit B, the second page of Exhibit B is giving you the information as far as the vision clearance triangle. It's a larger triangle where it's a 30 by 30 by 30 foot at that intersection point, only because of the fact that you're going to see oncoming traffic from both sides coming in either direction. So on Exhibit C, I measured the sidewalk, measured the fence from two different elevations. The first elevation which is higher than the 30 inches. Because in our section of the code, it says that plantings and walls and fences cannot be higher than 30 inches so that you can have a clear vision clearance triangle. The 38 inches is an elevation from where I measured it up at the ground level. And recently, they've done these ADA walkways, crosswalks. So they dropped that elevation where the sidewalk is a little bit. So that's where I get about 46.5 inches in the second picture there, because that thing, I'm measuring it down from where the sidewalk is. But when you look at Exhibit C, that's showing you the different elevations of grade there. So that first 30 inches, you can see where her grass line is right along the fence. And then the second is down level with the sidewalk, which is where I received that 46.5 inch measurement. As you can see in the picture there at Exhibit C on the left, there is a stop sign. So when you pull up to this stop sign, the second picture on this exhibit, that is your view of oncoming traffic. And I took that picture from sitting in, it's like a small built car, it's a Kia Niro. So that picture is showing you what the person is looking at as they're visualizing oncoming traffic coming from Parsons Avenue back towards 17th Street. The next exhibit is showing you back at Putnam Alley. This fence is a 6-foot high fence, and I did pretty much the same thing there. That elevation has also been dropped a little bit because at that point, it's another ADA crossing. So it was roughly about 78 inches. And at this point, the fence would need to be brought down to additional 30 inches in height, which this triangle would be smaller. She would have to cut a section out and to bring that vision clearance triangle into to correct that corner. The next picture is where I had to pull up to the sidewalk area so that I could see oncoming traffic. And at this point, the front of my car is, well, just a little ways out into the street at this point to see if there's any pedestrians coming down the walkway or any oncoming traffic. And then Exhibit D it's an older picture that I found from May 10th, 2021, which at that time, there was a chain link fence there. So just showing that there was a chain link fence there before the newer privacy fence was added there. Was there any questions or?
No. No questions from me. Any questions? No. Okay, ma'am. State your name again, please.
Kumalara.
Kumalara?
Kumalara.
Kumalara.
Yeah. I have some pictures too that I would like to share with the board, if you don't mind.
You have to pass them.
Do you mind, ma'am? I want to, go ahead and do
Yeah.
that. I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Are you disputing anything that
Yeah.
you're disputing the facts that she just described?
No, I'm not disputing the facts that she described. No, I am trying to appeal that the visibility, that the fence, when it was made, was put in exactly the same position that the previous fence was.
And that may be true,
That is, yes, it's,
but that doesn't mean that it's code compliant.
okay.
And when you put something new in, you remove all the history that preceded that.
Yeah,
So-
because the chain link fence was see-through,
Yes.
and so it did not obstruct
No,
visibility.
the chain link fence, I agree with what she said about that. But when we drive on the pictures down from, actually from 17th, coming from Livingston Avenue, the visibility is very good. We used a small car. I had a friend who had a small mini car, and you could see very clearly, and there's a stop sign there.
So that's a very subjective approach and I appreciate that. The reason I asked the question is because I want to make sure our purpose up here is to determine, are these sets of facts accurate or inaccurate? Not to say whether you should have the fence or not. So I wanted to make sure that you understood what our goal is here,
Sure.
what the outcome is going to be. It may be that you feel that there's no obstruction, doesn't mean that the obstruction doesn't exist. So we can't rule in this instance whether or not it's acceptable or not. We're ruling on facts.
Okay, so she's, Ms. Turner is telling me to make a prying rule in the front. So that would mean that we would have to build outside the yard, leave some space out of the yard. Is that what you're saying?
We would have to, where I was showing that the pictures, we had talked about that. They would have to have that fence cut down to where you see 3 feet.
Okay, sure, okay. Now, what about the alley one? The alley one, I'm not understanding that at all, because the alley fence is, I don't see any solution to that problem.
It's the same premise. You
Yeah.
have to accomplish the same thing in the alley that you accomplished on the main corner.
So we're supposed to put a 30-foot and 30-foot fence
30
in the
inches.
30 inches in the alley? Wouldn't that be like not private anymore?
How you accomplish it, we want to be as supportive as we can.
Yeah.
How you accomplish it, you could actually go at a 45-degree angle and keep your privacy fence, if I'm not mistaken, all the way to create the complete vision triangle, right?
So you're saying for her to relocate the fence?
Yeah, if you want privacy,
Yes.
rather than cutting the fence down, take your privacy, but you'll have to lose some of your corner of your yard.
So, okay, in the corner, okay, that makes sense.
Again, I'm not prescribing what you should do.
I know.
Talk to the code enforcement officer and she can help guide you through that.
Okay.
Or you could request a variance to leave it as it is.
So that would not,
Right, that's what I'm just bringing with you.
That bec-
yeah, you can, but I don't think that's, I mean, we've seen that it's blocking. I mean, if it was a case where there wasn't blocking vision clearance, then maybe, but
The reason I actually came here today was to request that variance.
that's
My
not the
contractor-
process.
That's what my contractor said to me.
But you went through the appeals route, and so that's what we're doing right now, is adjudicating on the appeal. If you want to go through the variance route, you can, but we gotta settle this here, and then you can come back and talk with variance at another time.
Okay.
But I would tell you, this group hasn't permitted new fences
Right.
to go through this. If they were existing, and they've been there for a while, we feel we've let some of those go. But never a new fence.
Right. So what you said, that the whole history is gone. This is a
Yeah.
new,
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, so on the evidence presented, the board makes the following findings of facts. The privacy fence is blocking vision clearance at the street and the alley. Right?
Yes.
Can we vote, please?
We vote, we
Yeah.
call.
Before we vote, are we voting so I can make these adjustments, not to take the fence down?
No, we're voting that we found that you had a vision clearance blocking. We're not voting on what you should do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Mr. Malika,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Chair Plummer Bailey.
Yes. Okay, based on the evidence presented, the board upon motion duly made and seconded makes the following order. Appeal is denied. Roll that, please.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Malika,
Yes.
Chair Plummer Bailey.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Our first variance special permit request is 1089 Perry, oh, no, that was. Yeah. Yeah,
Deshler.
Yes, sure.
1062 East Deschler Avenue. Can you state your name when you were sworn in, please?
Hello, my name is Denise Smith, and yes, I've been sworn in.
Okay. So the city will present the case and then we'll hear from you.
1062 East Deschler Avenue is located along an alley 80 feet north of Deschler Avenue, 200 feet west of Linwood Avenue. It is on R4 residential and is part of the Columbus South Side Area Commission. The 0.11 acre site is developed solely with a 730 square foot garage and non-habitable accessory structure. Surrounding uses are single and 2-unit residential dwellings. The parcel fronts upon an alley that runs north to south between East Deschler Avenue and Stewart Avenue. The owners received a workings without permits violation in February 2022. A garage is, a garage is not an allowed primary use in any zoning district. Therefore, the applicant proposes to construct a 580 square foot, single-story, single-unit dwelling to be attached, making the garage an accessory structure. The applicant requests variances to reduce the area devoted to the rear yard from 25% to 2% and to allow a dwelling to front on an alley rather than a public street. The Department of Public Utilities notes that this parcel currently has no access to water or to sanitary sewer. A water main extension down the alley would be required, as well as a combined sewer in the alley on the east side of the adjacent parcel to the east. Planning recommends the applicant coordinate with the city forester on the addition of street trees along the alley to mitigate the reduction in side yard. And the Columbus citywide planning policy states that street trees should be provided as part of the new development. The Division of Traffic Management had no comments, and the Columbus Southside Area Commission recommended approval of this request. The city staff is recommending disapproval. Typically, the board is presented with requests where a primary structure is existing and an accessory structure is being proposed, necessitating variance to height, area, and or side yards. In this instance, the two are switched as the accessory structure is existing and a primary structure is being proposed. Regardless, staff has consistently recommended disapproval to proposals where the accessory structure will be larger than the primary structure. And since we wrote that, we got those plans that I gave you where they submitted plans where the primary structure would be larger than the accessory structure. We got those yesterday.
Yes, I originally was gonna ask to have it tabled because I only found out on Friday that staff was gonna recommend this approval based off the dwelling being smaller than the garage. So I've since went back to the architect to have him increase the size of the dwelling. So in the new plans, you'll see that the dwelling is now 745 square feet and the garage is 700. So if you didn't.
I'm sorry,
have
can
time-
you speak up, please?
If you didn't have time to review the plans, I was gonna ask the table, but if it's sufficient now.
This is the new.
That's it, it's bigger.
So what's the garage gonna be used for? Why is it so large?
So we purchased, so just to give the history, which I have, is for you guys. So we purchased the garage back in March of 2020. This is the first time we purchased a freestanding garage. We purchased it for our personal vehicles. It was going to be a garage for my husband to tinker with his cars. And, which I'm sure you're going to hear testimony from, the owner located at 1064 Deschler. They have been complaining ever since, but we purchased in March. She purchased her property in December with it, and it opened up a code violation because we did have a shady contractor who took our money, didn't do everything that he was supposed to do. That's when we learned that you cannot have a freestanding garage that is not attached to a dwelling. And we have been trying to get a permit approved just to get the garage in compliance until we could get to zoning to get the variances.
So the land that you purchased this, there was only a garage?
It was only a garage, and as you can see from the pictures, the garage from the pictures that are available on the auditor site date back to 2004. And if you look at that picture, that garage has been there longer than 2004.
The original garage.
The original garage has been there, I'm gonna say, based off the age of that, at least 10 years prior to 2004.
When did you acquire it?
We acquired it in March of 2020. So that garage has been there, and as you can see in the picture from 2004, there's electric on the side of the building. So the electric has been there. But yes, we were cited for working without a permit. We're gonna have to pay a fine. We have an application in now with the city to have it inspected for the work that we did do on the garage.
Was the
And
parcel split? Like, how was this?
no, so if you look back at the records, this property has not, the garage and the house has not been owned by the same owner since 1986.
But was there a house there that was torn
There was
down?
never a house there. It's always been a freestanding garage.
I
And we
mean,
purchased it legally.
This is really a question for staff. I can't believe, since the code is saying you can't do this, and this garage is a block garage, I'm gonna guess probably in the 1960s or 50s. How was this presented with no building, no house? So can you look at the history, GIS or whatever, and go back to what does the auditor say is the construction date of this garage?
And then on the, if you look in the documents I sent, it says improvement, detached garage. It has 2006 for that date from the auditor site. But there's clearly a picture from 2004. And again, the picture in 2004, you can tell it wasn't built in 2004.
Right.
And I do want to,
It could have been built without a permit, it could have been built, gone through, it could have been grandfathered.
But the garage is old.
Mhm.
So I want to see, like, at what point, and Jamie can sometimes go back to a GIS photo from 19 whatever, and we can see,
Yeah, because it says August 1986, 29,000. So what you're trying to do is make it
I'm
compliant by
trying to
just
make it
building
compliant
structure.
because of the open complaint that was brought against us. We
Gotcha.
learned that we cannot have it and we don't want to lose our
And you don't really
investment.
need the structure, but you're just trying to build a structure.
Yes,
because
yes.
Okay, gotcha. So you're saying if the garage is 730, you're gonna make the structure 745.
Correct.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
we have an aerial from 1995 currently on the screen. It looks like it is a detached garage, at least at that point.
and that's as far back as you can go.
That's as far as we have aerials for, unfortunately.
It's very bizarre. And I don't want to penalize her.
I do not personally, well, we'll hear what other people have to say.
What is the zoning? Is this a R2 zoning?
It's R4.
What is that?
Just what would be allowed on the lot? Like what kind of enhancement could she make? I mean, because everything the reason for denial is a legitimate reason that I would still stand by. I understand personally what your purpose would be, and I would personally do the same thing. You want to enhance the structure so that you can use it to its fullest.
Because
I'm
it's
just-
on a nice piece of land. Like, it's not a small piece.
I'm gonna
of
go out on a
land.
limb, and of course, this is my real estate profession. I'd probably build a small cottage on there, make it an Airbnb, and call it a day. I wouldn't even attach it. I would do it separate, and I would do what you want to do to the garage for your own personal use.
We'd also like to testify.
You'll have an opportunity. Thank you. So that's just an idea for me.
So is this, so based on the resubmitted plans, making the structure bigger than the garage,
We would recommend approval.
you would recommend approval? Okay. And I think you said Southside Air Commission recommended approval already. Okay. Is there anybody here that wants to speak? Okay, come forward. Ma'am, can you, let them have, you can stay seated, but let them have the microphone. You can slide the microphone over the chair. Thank you. Yes, sir. Okay, sir, can you state your name, whether you been sworn in?
My name is Ted Welch, and I have been sworn in. I am the 4th District Commissioner of the Columbus Southside Area Commission.
Okay.
She falls, the property falls in our district.
Okay.
Let me put my name down here.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
You say that right quick.
Okay. I have photos here from the county website as well, the auditors, that there have been changes. They changed this from a residential structure,
Who's they?
the Smiths,
Okay.
and raised the roof, telling us at a meeting that the roof was bad. The new roof was, the garage shows that it was built in 2006. So they came along and said, well, the roof was rotted. We had to put a new roof on at the meeting where we voted in opposition. This was the community meeting.
In 2006, you're saying they did?
They said the garage was built in 2006, according to the auditor, when I show permits required.
So I'm not sure what's the point you're making about that?
Well, they came along and changed it from a residential garage to a commercial garage. They raised the roof, made it 1.5 stories without a permit. They put a commercial garage door on it to do auto or vehicle repair in a residential community. They submitted 2 different variances, one under New Life LLC and the other one under Nubian Auto Group. So the inference here is not to put a home on it so that it is an asset to the community, is so that their son can live there, who is disabled, as they told us at the community meeting, and do auto repair in a residential area. This is off of an alley. The alley is small. It cannot have increased traffic. Now, I know we're voting on a variance issue here, but the variance will impact the alley. It is very narrow. Yes, the trash trucks can get up and down there, but the vision clearance from street, Deschler to alley is mitigated extensively. Miss Betty, who owns the property at 1064, has had trucks driving up on her yard because of the narrowness of the alley. We do not need increased residential or commercial traffic on the alley, and they have falsely misled us. And as you can see, they have not complied with any of the code's violations.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
2 things. Whatever decision we make here this evening does not change the allowable use of this lot.
Right.
So somebody practicing a commercial business is still in violation. So there are remedies for that. That's not what we're here to discuss or even to address or speculate on. So you know.
Right.
Additionally, I would ask you, we understand that this person, a citizen in your community, has purchased this property.
Right.
For whatever purpose, and now she's forced, if she wants to make any improvements, to do certain things. What would you as a commissioner suggest she be able to do with this?
I would suggest that she should put up a home with a conventional garage attached and tear that one down. If you look at the pictures here.
You want to tear this whole existing thing down?
Yeah, well, the garage has cracks in the wall.
But if she purchased the garage for its use as is.
But she's changed the use.
She should just forego that investment that she made for its use and say, I should just go with what you should say she should use it
Well,
for.
I'm not opposing that she have a home there of correct size. I'm opposing that if we give her the variance, that this will continue to be a commercial venue,
Which you have a remedy to address. That's why I brought
Which-
that up to you in the beginning.
which we have addressed with codes, and codes has gone out and cited them, and they have not complied.
That's, again, not our area,
I understand,
but
but
that's
the
your
remedy,
remedy, not this. She's providing a use that you're saying is acceptable, frankly. And if there's something else that's taking place, then you need to continue to address that as a commissioner and as a homeowner in the community.
But aren't you, you said you're part of the Columbus Southside Area Commission.
Make
Right.
it unanimous.
What
right?
was the vote?
The vote for them was 2 against and I think 7-4.
Okay. So
But
take
they
it,
went,
you
but
vote
they
one and
voted
against.
without any of this information that is on file with the city and the county auditor.
And that information wasn't available for the vote?
They did not look at it.
Who was they?
The commission,
Why didn't they?
because they were okay, I'm gonna get down to, we had a co-chair of the zoning committee at the site hearing who stated, and I was trying to interject this information, she said, variances can be acceptable, and I'm calling for a vote for the variance. That is not acceptable. A chair cannot say, I'm calling for a motion to vote for the variance. A chair can say, I am calling for a vote, but she said, I'm calling for a vote for.
Again, not our area.
So
I understand.
So you're calling a technicality on how the meeting was handled?
I'm calling a technicality on that.
Okay.
So, I
But the
mean,
vote was still 7-2.
right?
In
But,
favor.
but the community had a unanimous vote against. So the commission ignored the community's vote. So South Central Commons, Edgewood Acres, and others voted no because the applicant did not act in good faith. There were already code violations, and we could not abide by an individual acting in a, let's just say, dishonest, deceptive way. And I concur with the staff's recommendation of disapproval.
That doesn't exist anymore.
So, but I
They
said,
recommend approval.
they recommend approval now?
Yes.
Yeah, because now the primary structure is bigger than the
Okay,
appendage.
so we have been kind of like the Republican Party. Your vote doesn't count.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but I'm just saying, as a commissioner, they have not complied. Have they complied with any of the code's requests?
Sir, you're not allowed to ask questions of the staff.
Okay. Well, it is no. I have it in the records here. They are in violation, have been in violation since they purchased the property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak? Thank you. Can you state your name for the record, please, and whether or not you've been sworn in?
Yes, I've been sworn in. My name is Mary Webb, for the record.
Thank you.
I live in the neighborhood as well. I also am the vice president of the Edgewood Acres Community Association. We voted on this in October and it was voted overwhelmingly no, for several reasons that included water runoff. They have committed to, water abatement. The concern that the community has is that there are no utilities. If they tap into, the utilities that already exist, there's going to be a huge expense.
Expense for who?
Them. As a
Okay, so
homeowner.
why is that your concern?
Because of the dishonesty, I don't believe that that's actually going to be followed through, which was the consensus of the organization.
So do you think that they can
and
have a
community members.
house without utilities?
No, I don't, but I don't know that a bank would allow a person to purchase a house that doesn't have approval for these utilities, or these utilities aren't completely paid off. That also, this is, so if you have an unsellable house in a community, what happens then? Also the dishonesty, and I do want this on record, they treat their neighbor, Betty Reynolds, terribly. And I don't believe that this, and this actually is not my opinion, this is again, the opinion of the community, that this isn't going to turn into anything other than a chop shop, which is what it's currently being used for. So I want that on record. That's what I have to say. And again, this has been overwhelmingly disapproved by the community. There is sympathy for her investment, and I understand that. But again, if she continues to invest and these things continue to not be up to code, is there going to continue to be sympathy for that? And I don't think that sympathy is a way to get around code enforcement.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
What's the name of your organization? Edgewood?
Acres.
Edgewood Acres. You all voted for your commissioners, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's your venue or your body that votes on matters like this. Is that correct?
The paying members vote on issues.
Just paying members?
Yes. In our organization.
In our organization,
Sir, you have to.
So you pay to be a member of Edgewood Acres,
Correct.
and then those members can vote to select
They can vote on variances. As an opinion.
as an opinion.
Correct.
But you vote to elect commissioners to the Southside Commission.
Yes.
Okay, and they're your voice
Correct.
in the city's
Well,
eyes.
our commissioner is our voice. The rest of the commissioners on that board are not.
I understand. So from a district standpoint,
Correct.
you have one person, so they're your voice.
Correct.
So they're there to speak for your no vote.
Correct.
Were they a no vote?
Yes.
Okay, so that was represented.
Yes.
So we appreciate that. Thank you for that clarity.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please come forward. Oh, you can come forward. Can you state your name when now you were sworn in?
My name is Betty Reynolds.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear your last name.
Reynolds. Thank you. You promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Okay. Can you pull the microphone close because we're having trouble hearing everybody's testimony? Go ahead.
Okay. I bought my house in October, is when I signed on it, and it was November of 2019. And there were so many problems that I've been having. Right now I have, there's 2 fences and from what I understand, there has never been a survey. And so we got the 3 people, I have my picture. Her house, she cannot, my address is 1064. And all that property was one property at one time. So and so it was a small garage when it was 1064, all one property. And so they bought all that $17,000 is what they paid for the land, leave it, and did not buy the house.
Was that with you?
No, someone else sold it.
So that house that you live in was
yes.
the original
Yes.
owner of that garage?
Yes, it was a truck, David D. He's the original owner. And so right there, and so I was in Mississippi, and I'm just saying, so I bought it sight unseen. And so when I came, to see the house after 4 months, it was they had put up a wooden fence right there, and they had put up a chain fence.
Who's they?
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I assume.
Okay.
And so therefore, just like, I just have it like this, and they have all this being the main house.
Okay.
And so I had to, just saying within the main house, they were building 48 or something like that, and it owned all the land. And so Ms. Smith and Mr. Smith, they have to use 1064 rear, which is no such thing as 1064 rear, to get electric and everything, to get water. And it has really damaged, because they got the fence kissing touching each other, didn't even leave a baby foot, you know, when, so I had to call because I couldn't get over there to get the grass was tall. They were selling cars out the lot. And so, they had said, you know, she said, well, they did us both from. I said, well, the thing of it is, I didn't even know that it was there because when I called the electric company to get the electric put in my name, and they said, is it a duplex? Is it a double? I said, no, you know, it's a single house.
Right.
I said, so why are you asked? I said, so they said, well, we have electric at 1064 rear. That's why we asking you if it's a double. And they said, if you want to, you can put it in your name. You can't take it out of you know, it still had to stay there, but I could pay for 2 bills. So everything, so with that is what happened. But and so now, in dealing right along, and so then in the front of the house, and I have a handicap sticker. There is no parking space. You know, just dealing with the house that really came along with problems for the house when it was divided. And they bought the land only for $17,000. And I couldn't understand why no survey was done, why there's the wooden fence, and they had the chain link. Because if I could just go around there, you know, when I could cut the grass, or seeing the cars being sold, and when I met her husband, he asked me, well, how much did I pay for the house? And he told me what he paid for, and he gave me his card, which I don't have, but the name is still on there where they was using it for the car shop. And I seen them out there even since before this, and I had the pictures on my phone where, you know, where they're working on the car, they detail them, I mean, they do good work. And so, and then when they bring people around to see, and then their son is out there, the 2 sons out there in the back, because I can just see right out the fence, that's how close it is here, and then all that with that big garage. So it was a little garage. So they put that garage up, they had it bigger, which, and if you allow them, if they come in closer all the way, then the fence is already up there. We got the
If I
great
may
big tree.
interject, we have reached 3 minutes, so we should wrap up the argument.
Okay,
So,
but it's really,
finish what you're saying. You're saying that the garage is bigger than when they first bought it?
yes, they put the commercial, they redid it, the garage. They made it with, because nothing back that time, they were just a small garage.
Okay.
All this work they have done without a permit, and someone told me, said they got it done.
And you said if the house adding that on is coming closer to your property, where? Huh?
It's really not. I mean, it's, right now it's just grass between her house and the garage.
No, there's a fence.
No, it's the fences too.
I understand that, but we're talking about when the house goes in, it'll come closer to her property line.
And I have claustrophobia. I'll just be, you know, like, they can buy the house if they want, I can buy another one. I'm just saying, but to come so close, and since I've been there.
Well, you still have a backyard, ma'am.
No, I have a very little, yes, you know.
That's what you bought.
Right, but you know, my realtor, you know, I got an attorney looking into that, as far as, you know. But again, looking from the old pictures that they had sent me, so the person that owned it before, he had put, like, he had the grass, and they tore up the grass, put the rocks in the grass and all, for a business where they've been working on cars.
Okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So I'll just say this, can you bring that back up where you just were?
Yes.
To me, this looks like there were 2 properties on Deschler, 1064, and then the house to the right of it, that probably had a garage, or at least land that went all the way back. This was the garage that should have gone to this young lady's house,
Right,
is
which
my
is a small
speculation.
garage.
And somehow, somewhere, it got split off, and it is what it is. Every day, we are in here voting on things that abut an alley in German Village. As long as this place is built, you know, accordingly, I don't know how we say no to it. Now, if there's a misuse, I certainly don't condone that. We don't condone that. And to the extent that we can, we will support any community homeowner that is finding any kind of misuse of this property. So again, we're not sanctioning any use other than the construction of an appropriately sized home on this lot that has been split. And we look at these every day. As a matter of fact, the Perry Street, I think maybe that's what that was coming up. A lot split and building on a separate, a smaller portion of the existing lot. And that's what happened here, I'm sure.
Right, that is what happened because they, if you look down there, they paid $17,000 per land.
You can see the other continued lot for the house next door.
Is there anybody else here that wants to speak about this application? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, to the applicant, can you speak to one of the issues that was raised? Yeah, I guess to Mr. Jones's point, yeah, we're not condoning the commercial use of the property, even if you do get this, house variance, like this is a residential, so that's what it is.
And so they're speaking of past things. So the person we purchased the land from, the garage, they were storing cars there. That's what we were under the understanding that we could do. Once all of the code violations came, that's when we learned that, no, you can't do this and that. And we have since moved cars. We were never working on any cars there. My husband isn't a mechanic. He's a tinkerer. And we don't sell any cars out of there. The garage has been there. We're trying to bring it into compliance. If you look at the last 2 pages that I sent you, it's an example of 2 houses that we purchased and renovated. Not on the plan, the other handout.
Oh, this.
Yeah, to show you that we don't do crappy work. Like, we have true intentions of putting a house there, whether it be to sell it or rent it, and whoever lives in that house, the garage will become their parking. So there will not be any extra congestion in the street. The garages are already there. Like, they will literally pull into the garage and walk into their house.
Okay.
So know that so code enforcement is often very reactive to consumers. You're on the radar for your neighborhood, so there's no
getting permit in, so it's like.
I'm saying for ongoing use.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah. And that's why there hasn't been any new things. It's the same one. The last letter I got is for having a freestanding garage, which that's what this meeting is for, to be able to address that.
And I think, it's.
And it's still unfair to me.
It is unfair to her. I don't know how code enforcement comes out and says you're in violation of having a garage when she bought a garage. You know what I mean? She didn't build it at this point.
Purchased it legally.
And also just for the neighbors, I mean, the city of Columbus won't permit a house to be built on that property without utilities. So they will look into that first, and that'll be the first criteria to do any home.
But it doesn't have utilities because the other guy already has utilities at the house.
Yeah, then I gotta sort that out. Okay, are we ready to call the question?
Yeah.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Malika?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Plummer Bailey?
Yes, variance granted, thank you. Case 1198 East Rich Street.
Yep.
Can you state your name to the record of whether you've been sworn in, and can you also sign the roll sheet?
Master Ramsey, yes, I've been sworn in.
Denota Strickland? Yes, I've been so.
Thank you.
BZA 22-044, 1198 East Rich Street is located on the north side of East Rich Street, approximately 250 feet west of Wilson Avenue. It is zoned R3 residential district and located in the Near East Area Commission. The 0.08 acre site is currently undeveloped. Surrounding uses are primarily single unit residential with multi-unit dwellings to the north. The applicant proposes to construct a new 3,000 square foot single unit dwelling with a detached garage and requesting variances to reduce the lot width from 50 feet to 23 feet, reduce the lot area from 5,000 square feet to 1,587 square feet, to reduce the maximum side yard required from 4.6 feet to 3.9 feet, to reduce the minimum side yard on a lot less than 40 feet wide from 3 feet to 1 foot on the west side and to 2.9 feet on the east side. To reduce the side yard for a garage from 3 feet to 1 foot on the west side and to 2 feet on the east side, and to allow steps to be located in the side yard. Staff has reviewed elevations and found them to be generally consistent with the plan's guidance. Additionally, street trees should be planted along residential streets. Planner requests additional street trees in the site plan in the rear yard and along the street. Please contact Chad at Reckon Parks to coordinate the planting of street trees. The revised site plan relocates the garage closer to the alley, compatible with other garages in the area, consistent with Near East Area Plan design guidelines. Division of Traffic Management has no comments on the revised site plan. The Near East Area Commission recommends approval of this request, and staff can recommend approval of the requested variances because 2 of which are to conform an existing lot of record, and the remaining variances will allow the proposed new home to be compatible with other existing homes in the neighborhood. And staff is not requesting any conditions on this.
What are the boxes? I see what look like windows. Are those windows?
Yes.
So why are they marked differently? Rather than like the windows above the door? Those are just windows.
I'm not sure why they're not differently. Maybe because they're fixed windows.
Oh, okay. Well, they're all fixed.
You mean they don't open?
Right.
So those look like regular windows, the other one looks like storefront. So 2 different typologies.
It looks pretty similar.
I'm not sure why it's marked differently.
Did you guys acquire this from the land bank?
Yes, we
Yes.
did.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything to add about the application?
No, I mean, it pretty much speaks for itself.
Ma'am, have you been here before with another land bank property?
Me?
Yes.
Uh-uh.
Okay.
That was me.
Okay.
I think she was with me.
This same property or a different?
No, it was a difference.
I don't have any questions. Do you guys have a question?
I don't.
See if
Yeah. Is anybody here to speak about this application? Okay, hearing none, I'm ready to call question.
I'll call a question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Chair Palm-Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
2357 Sullivan Avenue. There's no one here for 23. Oh.
PZA 22-091 for 2357 Sullivan Avenue, located on the southwest corner of Sullivan Avenue and South Wheatland Avenue. It is zoned C4 Commercial District and located in the Greater Hilltop Area Commission. The site is developed with an automotive repair shop and retail drive-through carryout within the urban commercial overlay. Surrounding uses include a beauty salon to the west, a vacant lot to the east, a religious facility to the north, and single-unit residential dwellings to the south. The applicant was initially cited by code enforcement for adding a dumpster to the site without zoning clearance. They are now applying for variances to allow a dumpster and accessory parking to be located at the side of the building rather than in the rear, as well as variances to legitimize existing conditions, which are to reduce the number of stacking spaces for a drive-through from 8 to 7, and maneuvering variance to allow 2 parking spaces for the repair shop to be stacked. Planning staff acknowledge the variances are to legitimize existing conditions and comment on variances in accordance with adopted design guidelines for a given location as zoning actions occur. As Columbus citywide planning policies guidelines emphasize screening parking lot areas from roadways to the greatest extent possible, staff recognize the existing conditions of the parking lot and support the variance legitimizing its condition with additional landscaping to the extent possible consistent with applicable design guidelines. The Division of Traffic Management has no comments. The Greater Hilltop Area Commission recommends approval with the following conditions: a total of 3 street trees to be added on site, and a sidewalk on the east side of the parcel along Wheatland Avenue will be repaired and replaced. Staff can recommend approval as a proposal was triggered by the addition of a dumpster in the side yard, resulting in the applicant making significant site improvements. And staff is requesting the condition that this site plan be stamped.
Okay, can you state your name and have you been sworn in?
Len Holmbacher, yes, I've been sworn in.
Okay, do you have anything to add about this application?
Yes, I'd just like to give an overview of the site. It's two buildings. One is a repair shop and the other is a drive-through. They're both connected. They both share the same parking lot. Originally permitted in that configuration back in '88, so it's been there for 35 years. 0 lot line on Sullivan, 0 lot line on the alley. The dumpster location is required to be in the rear, which is why we're in here. There is no rear. So the parking lot and some of the repair shop parking is all into the parking lot. And it's primarily a drive-through, so there is no walk-in. There's no parking used for that other than employees, repair shop, and I think we have one designated for the ATM machine on the wall. Just a couple of notes that we have taken care of. We had some minor violations in the parking where the cars were parking over the setback on Wheatland, so we're taking care of that, getting that all striped out and everything properly, so that doesn't happen anymore. And as staff has acknowledged, all of this basically legitimizes the site that's been there for many, many years.
Is there landscaping on Wheatland? Or does it?
There's a grassy area there.
Okay.
And that's where I wanted to bring up that we were required by code for the number of parking places we have, 2 trees. We are going to put those in. We worked back and forth with planning staff and actually emailed the arborist directly. He went out, looked at it out at the site and recommended the locations of the 2 trees. When we got to Hilltop, they just said they wanted another tree. So that's a little bit, that's more than we're normally required to do. It just said they like trees. So.
It looks like
And
you're cutting
there are
out
other.
some of the hardscape, right?
Excuse me?
You're cutting out some of the existing asphalt and putting grass in.
That is correct. That's where whoever had paved the lot kind of paved over onto
Right.
they paved onto that setback area. It's a 10-foot setback. In addition, I was told by planning that it's outside of the Hilltops purview to recommend public improvements.
Yes, it is.
So I don't even know if the sidewalk is on the table. I'm not sure where that came from.
You follow the forester.
Excuse me?
Follow the forester, whatever they told you.
Yes, we moved the trees and this is the final site plan that was submitted that's given to you. They wanted the trees moved around because we have power poles there, down guys, number of things.
Okay.
So this is the way we have it laid out now. We've been through, I think, three reviews and getting everything just the way they wanted it.
Okay. Is there anybody here to speak about this application? Okay, we're ready to call the question?
I'll call a question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Malika?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Paul Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Can I ask, does that variance include additional trees and sidewalk?
It includes the 2 trees that you have here on.
Okay.
Only it's on the site
A
plan.
site plan.
Whatever's on
Per the
the-
site plan.
Yeah, for the site.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So you want to hold?
Yes.
Yeah, we have to hold.
Yeah, wait.
So we're gonna take a 5-minute break. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Right.
There's sides.
You're just trying to figure that out. 5, I think we're on 6, right? Yeah. That.
I think that's the third. How long is it? Yeah.
We're doing 6, right?
Let's see the ticket out. Yes.
There's some. Okay, this one's gonna be a water spend, but there's where it's like, oh, we easy one.
So it's from that. From
As far as. Yeah, it grows with. I need to go in like every other week.
Sort of.
It was 7 and 7. Like everything went good, it was supposed to be.
With that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting these out of the way, right?
Yeah. There's gonna be enough to tell you to think twice about the rest of things.
That's exactly right. Yeah, if you're going to start on that,
So it was this one that you're going to do this one. This one's gonna take a while. Yeah, fair. We still got to get back to it.
You don't have that.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Get it with this. Okay.
But it's still, what do you do when you live in
Did you go? Yeah, I couldn't go. I'm sure they had a blast. How old are you, Karen? Girls. So this is still just variance for one part. Reduced from 1 to 0. So back to 0.
You raised that's incorrect for what it's worth. The note on the agenda.
Yeah, it should be from 2 to 1.
2 to 1.
Oh,
He has
They
it,
have one.
it's correct further down.
Yeah, it's in the background.
oh, I see it. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Handicaps.
It's gonna be the first point on my oral presentation.
Amy just didn't, correct. He didn't check his report.
Okay.
Well, same difference, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, we're ready, we're back. State your names for the record or whether you've been sworn in.
Thank you. Christina Dahman. I have been sworn in.
Mandy Martin, I have also been sworn in.
Okay.
UZA 22-094 for 914 Cleveland Avenue, located on the northeast corner of Cleveland Avenue and East Star Avenue. It's zone C4 commercial districts and located in Milo Grogan Area Commission. The site is currently developed with a 2,100 square foot warehouse attached to a single unit dwelling. Surrounding uses include a park, a 2-unit dwelling to the south, a residential dwelling to the north, an industrial building to the west, and a live, work, artist community to the east. The applicant proposes a change of use from a storage building to a medical marijuana control program retail dispensary. The change of use requires a variance to reduce the minimum number of additional parking spaces from 2 to 1. The applicant appeared before the board in October last year to request a special permit for medical marijuana dispensary use and a parking variance from 2 to 0. Special permit was approved, but the parking variance was denied. Both the Milo Grogan neighborhood plan and Columbus citywide planning policies recommend minimum parking space reduction requests where on-site parking is available. Staff note the site is located on the transit corridor and within a walkable neighborhood. C2P2 does not address the special permit request. The Department of Public Service can support the requested variance to reduce the minimum required number of parking spaces from 2 to 1. Please be advised that with the proposed demolition of the residential structure on the site, the existing driveway with access to East Star Avenue will need to be removed. The Milo Grogan Area Commission recommends disapproval. The staff can recommend approval of the proposed parking variance as the Department of Public Service stated support for the request to reduce the minimum required number of parking spaces from 2 to 1. Staff is requesting condition that the existing driveway with access to East Star Avenue will be removed and access to the site made from the alley.
So access to the site can only be made through,
The alley to direct.
The alley.
only through the alley. Got you, okay.
I have a question for staff. I heard you just say you can recommend approval because what?
Staff can recommend approval of the proposed parking variance as the Department of Public Service stated support for the request to reduce the minimum number of required parking spaces from 2 to 1.
Stated support. What does that even mean?
Traffic engineering says that they support the request to reduce parking.
So you all are saying yes because they said they support it,
Correct.
not because you think it makes sense.
Our recommendation is based off of staff review comments and whether there's support or disapproval from the various reviewing departments.
Okay.
I'm sorry, they found that the reduction would not be detrimental to the area, is what Jamie said.
The reduction of parking, okay. And so is that your area?
That's my area, yeah.
So why do you all think that a business that I would say has at least one employee, right? And would expect to have on average at least 3 customers doesn't need parking, or they only need handicap parking?
Yeah, so in evaluating the reduction request from 2 to 1, it's looking at the size of the business, not as much what the business is versus how much required parking versus the request for reduction. So the way that we calculate traffic and the trips that are generated for this site, it's not really saying, well, this is a medical marijuana dispensary. We're saying this is a retail establishment. And that retail establishment is X number of square feet. That typically requires X amount of parking. As in a lot of things that we analyze, it's not a perfect analysis, but given the information we have and the request for the reduction, that's why the recommendation on of that reduction was made.
So I mean, that's usually how you guys do is the number of square feet requires this many parking spaces.
Correct.
So this 2,100 square foot establishment is a 2 parking space establishment. Is that what we're saying?
That would be accurate, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think in our discussion with it, we acknowledge that understanding the use type has exhibited higher parking needs than what would be seen as a typical site from this. So, I mean, we acknowledge the fact that it's going to have some additional parking impact on the neighborhood, but given in the information we have based on the application, that's the way.
Given a generic approach.
Correct.
But you're acknowledging that you know it will be more intense and there will be an impact in the community.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Before we
So
go,
what is this, I don't understand this third bullet point then. One to 250, what does that mean?
that's one space for 200 square feet of retail space.
So that's how you said that they need two. Is that right, or I?
Oh, because in the math is a math.
Well, it's also based off of the previous use as well.
The previous use.
Yeah, there's an equation in the code that we take the previous use and the number of parking that was required for that use. And if there could have been a previous variance for this site, and then the number of spaces that are required for the new use, and then the two, I believe, is the difference.
So there was storage before, right?
Immediately previous to this current owner, correct?
Yeah, because I thought when you have a new use, you have to have a new.
And that's where we get our new number.
Yeah,
Jamie also was mentioning that being located in the urban commercial overlay, that they have credit for the previous use as well.
Well, let's talk about specifically what they need for their use today. And then we can talk about an overlay and all of that other stuff. So help us understand that. Based on the square footage for the current use, not the previous use, what is that? You have,
because if it's 1 per 250, I mean, just some rough math, that look like at least 8.
8 spots.
Right? Is that what you guys calculated?
So when you're running the numbers like that, but then when you run through the grandfathering in and the calculations, that's what gets us to the 2. And we're only asking to reduce to 1, and we have some other points.
But that's what we're just trying to understand how the grandfathering in works. That's what we're not understanding. Can you help us with that?
So I defer to
Okay.
The representatives. No point.
Yeah, based on the 2,100 square feet, it would be 9 spaces required
Okay.
before any credit.
And now talk about the credit.
Yeah, how do they get credit?
Do you know how?
So I think you reduce 21 by 50%, and then you look at the 2,500, and then we're grandfathered in with a reduction of 5. So what gets us to the 2 spaces, not to the 8 spaces.
And you're saying your grandfather because of the previous use being storage?
Correct, according with the urban commercial overlay. But we do have additional information to present.
We'll get to that in a moment.
Absolutely.
So 9 spaces. And the commercial overlay cuts it in half, but it cuts the grandfathering in half.
I can't speak to that.
It's a complicated calculation to determine because it takes the previous use with the square footage and the available parking for that previous use. And then it looks at the square footage and the use for the new use. And whatever that difference is between those is how you calculate what that grandfather amount is. See, previously, I don't think they had any parking because that back area was just a storage area. So there was no parking before. So you went from a use with 0 and a new use that would require 9, but difference is 9. So you take that by half, and I think that's where the 5 or 4 originally would have come from, but then they get a reduction off of that, which is probably how they got to it too.
The reduction based, what's the second reduction based on?
Somebody more versed in that particular code would have to answer that question. I do know that it's extremely complicated. I can say, caveat would be if they tore the building down and built a 2,100 square foot retails, that they would be held to the 9 parking spaces.
And that's where I am with this. I mean, we could talk about grandfathering because the building is the same, but the use has changed significantly. But I'm good now, I'll let work, so carry on.
Yeah, and I'm just confused about that too, because we always talk about change of use, wiping everything, other slates clean. And I'm just wondering why that's not the case here, but I get it. I'm not here to change those rules, but that just seems funky to me that we say that that's different from anything else.
And we're not getting a good answer as to why.
So it's set forth in the documents that are submitted with our paperwork, where the existing warehouse use incurs parking at a rate of 1 space per 1,000 square feet at a 2,100 square foot gross floor area. The existing development would be credited 3 required parking spaces. The same 21 square foot building as the proposed retail use would incur parking at a base rate of 1 space per 2,500 with parking reduction of 50% granted by the urban commercial overlay. And that's set forth in 3372.609. And then the explanation concludes, this means that the new use would require 5 parking spaces. Therefore, the increase in the required parking incurred by the change of use would only be 2 spaces, not 8.
I need
And so-
someone to fix her microphone, please.
Oh, I can also just bring it closer to my mouth.
Thank you.
That should help. And I apologize, I do depositions and I know better than when reading documents to slow down a little bit. But we go from 5 to 2 because it's 5 that gets reduced by the 3 that gets us to the 2. And I understand that may not be agreeable to you all, but I
No, it's
think
not
we
about
have
being
some-
agreeable. We don't have to agree with it. We just trying to understand.
Certainly,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so we're 2. And how did we explain to us how originally you were 2 to 0, but now you're 2 to 1?
Correct.
How do we get to that change?
Certainly. So as this board is well aware, this is a proposed medical marijuana dispensary that holds a provisional dispensary license. And through that process, we have to abide by strict guidelines with the Board of Pharmacy to comply with all of their security rules, as well as rules governing the operations of the retail facility. So we've been working diligently with the Board of Pharmacy and trying to find a workable solution for 2 parking spaces, or having 2 parking spaces on the parcel. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to come up with a workable solution with them with respect to that. So we're a little bit in a rock and a hard place. But we're hearing the commission, or hearing this board and hearing the community, and have been able, through diligent efforts and multiple floor plan workouts, to be able to have a facility that we believe will meet all the Board of Pharmacy needs, but then we'll provide a 1 parking space ADA spot on the parcel, which will provide easy access for handicapped patient to come and go and ingress and egress from the facility.
Okay.
And can I proceed, or do you want me to wait?
No, go ahead.
Questions? Certainly. So that's one point in how we've heard the community, heard the commission, and heard this board. In addition, we have entered into a letter of intent with the neighboring parcel for use up to 10 parking spaces just adjacent to this building, which will address a number of concerns that were raised by Mr. McCoy and Mr. Coakley, and most recently in a submission by Mr. Coakley, where it will provide adjacent parking and will address the concerns with respect to
Where is that here?
directly where
Where the
the
cursor is.
mouse is.
So in their yards?
So it would be, the entrance would be from the alleyway as well. Yep, and it would be in that area right there.
You're gonna pave all of that?
We'll pave it, we'll provide, landscaping as required and otherwise comply with any of the rules that we need to.
So you're
So you're
going,
making it into a parking lot?
Partially into a parking lot to provide up to 10 parking spaces to
Do they need a
service.
variance for that?
Do not believe so. It's zone commercial.
Oh, okay.
it looks like a house.
Yeah, I thought it
Yeah.
was too, so, okay,
Very good. No, I appreciate asking those questions. It's important clarification.
okay.
So those parking spaces certainly will address some of the concerns raised and provide, and I think there are some quotes of, we'd like to see at least 8 parking spaces, even heard 9 here today, right? It'll
So you're
provide-
not going to purchase that land, you're just going to improve their land?
So to be totally candid with this board, we have been in discussions to purchase it, have not been successful to come to a resolution on that, but we have been able to enter into this LOI to be able to lease it. We would incur the cost to improve it. We have the right to utilize it, and the current LOI anticipates a long-term lease use of the space.
So that will solve your employee parking, your customer parking?
So that's wonderful follow-up, because it gets to a third point that we've put in place, are employee SOPs that will require employees to park at 3 paid parking lots or other adjacent paid parking lots in the community. And the Ohio Bound will provide reimbursement for those parkings, as well as pay for share ride if the employee would like to take a share ride from those parking garages. In addition, obviously, so those are the 3 main points that Ohio Bound has heard the community, heard the commission, and heard this board, and is working toward trying to meet the goals of each element here. And then looks forward to continuing to work with the community. We're currently on the agenda for February 14th with the Milo Grogan Commission, where we'd like to talk through how to best implement this plan that we have in place, and to hear all their concerns that they have as to parking, as well as to other aspects with respect to the planned use and the medical marijuana dispensary being in this location.
Are you willing to self-impose this condition of parking?
Which condition?
That you're going to create the parking adjacent to the building?
As a condition of the variance?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was looking through some of the other concerns that previously had been raised by the community. And there was concerns regarding employee parking, and so working to address those specifically. The board is aware I presented this previously, but lay it out here. There will be 9 new dispensaries in the Columbus area, 5 specifically within the core, the central of Columbus. And the anticipation with that, right, is to hopefully alleviate some of the backlog of patients trying to obtain medical cannabis. So I just wanted to point that out as one of the concerns raised by the community, was as to seeing lines behind, around dispensaries. And we're hoping to obviously provide parking that can ease those that are working to attend the dispensary, but then also the anticipation, right, there will be other dispensaries opening as well over this next year that will help alleviate patient demand to attend any specific site to get the medical cannabis. The couple other points just to round out the presentation here is to note that there will be a positive economic impact of having this business on the community, and the Ohio Bound is open to complying with Milo Grogan Neighborhood Plan, which discusses shared parking agreements, and to the extent that we can utilize this parking to provide further alleviation on the concerns in the community regarding available parking. For example, in the evening hours, there's an apartment across the street that I've heard has 6 units, and that's a concern for the community, that making this parking lot available for those residents during after hours, as well as there's a park across the street, which is available to the community, and otherwise when the business is not in operation, making the parking lot available for use by the community for those attending the parking otherwise. And again, that's a conversation that we look forward to having with the Milo Grogan Commission, the area businesses and neighbors and community.
Good. Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Please go forward, sir. Can one of you guys let one of the
Before he speaks, I would like to just make sure it's on the record that there were 3 letters I gave you earlier, 2 emails from neighbors, and then 1 email and the minutes from
That's my husband's on his behalf.
Yes, I have that. Thank you for pointing out.
What's that?
This, that each set these letters at our stations. Yeah, right there.
Well, do you want to just say what you said, or do I need to?
Okay, sir, can you state your name for the record and whether you've been sworn?
Yes, my name is Dwayne McCoy, and yes, I've been sworn.
Okay, go ahead.
To start, I just want to be clear that I support the medical marijuana business and welcome them into our community. I just feel that what we have here is a resident from California who has found an inexpensive piece of property in Milo Grogan, and he's trying to take a square peg and fit it into a round hole, meaning he found a very inexpensive piece of property that has no parking on it. It's blocked to the north by Cleveland. Behind it is an alley. And the conversation she's talking about subleasing property, that plot there for parking. Our conversations with the owner of that is they had no intent of leasing any parking. So that's news tonight, unless that happened today or something. But also 3 individuals, the attorney and Mandy. Mandy came to speak to the Milo Grogan the area commission, and it was unanimous that all commissioners were against this. There was about 40 or 50 residents
present. It was unanimous. Everyone was against this.
What was the reason?
The reasons are that this is a medical dispensary currently. The questions were asked, well, once Ohio becomes recreational, what is your business plan then? Because the traffic is going to pick up. They acknowledged that traffic would pick up, but they would provide traffic cops to direct traffic in the area.
Traffic cops.
That's what they were told at the commission meeting.
Oh, like to direct,
Yeah.
go this way.
Direct
or-
traffic,
Mhm.
right? So there's all that. What I want to call is where that cursor is right now, that is our community garden. That is our community park. And I'm going to share a photo that was just taken at our last meeting, if I can share this. We use this park. These are, here's another one, so you can pass it around.
Is it a designated park? Because I thought
Yes.
they had to
Yes. Yes.
be within certain proximities. Thank you.
Yeah. It's our community garden, it's our park. We have a local library there. We have monthly meetings there. And so you can see, you can look at the area there. We're landlocked in. We depend upon that parking. Park. All of the neighbors, the commission, were very much against this. And here we are, they didn't take any of our advice. And so where this grandfather stuff is coming in as variances, I'm not familiar with that. That was a storage unit. This is not a commercial space, so I don't understand how they can get away with not providing any parking. You're also told that they would be required to have 3 employees on staff at all time. Somebody in the front of the house, somebody in the back of the house, and a security guard in the building. So you need at least 3 parking for those individuals. And then the customer traffic flow. Most of the customers coming into this establishment have medical needs or disabilities. So they're going to be parking on the street and walking to this establishment. There's no handicap accessibility provided here.
Why do you say that?
There's no handicap curbs on the sidewalks currently.
You mean, okay.
So, yeah, and there's no parking there for handicapped people.
That's what they're proposing. Is an ADA compliant parking space. And they would have to have ADA compliance for an entry, I'm sure.
Okay.
So I don't know that that's completely accurate.
You're saying they're asking for a variance for the street to have a handicap parking?
Oh, he's saying there's no,
They pull up the
he's
site
going,
plan.
he's saying there's no ramps, he's saying.
There's an ADA, they're proposing an ADA compliant parking space for somebody that would be handicapped.
Yeah. All right. So that's just some of my concerns.
And you live in the community, where do you live?
Yeah, I'm adjacent to it. So in that photograph there, you see, the one that I handed around, yeah, we share the alley. And, it connects to that community garden as well.
Okay.
Oh, that.
Where is it?
Yeah, my house would be right behind that cursor there.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that permit parking on that street right there?
No,
That's not permit parking?
no. That first house there next to the community, it is sanctioned off for 6 individual units in that house. And so you need 6 cars for this, just that single house. And then all the houses to the right of that, families live there, kids live there.
Do they have off-street parking?
Some do and some do not. So the first one does, the second one does not.
I mean, based on that picture I just saw, it looks like the street parking's taken up.
Yes, it's full.
Yeah.
That's a great picture there because it's showing kind of vacant right there, but normally, no, it is full.
What's that big warehouse looking building?
That is the Milo Arts Center.
Do they have parking?
Yeah, it's surrounded by parking, and if there was that picture extended to it, there's a big parking lot there. And
But it's a public space?
no, it's owned by the Milo Arts. And as far as these remote parking spots, I live in the neighborhood for several years now, so I don't know where they're referring to, shuttle buses and shipping.
Yeah, they can explain that to us and you'll hear that.
Okay. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak about this application? Please come forward, ma'am. Did you sign the sign-in sheet, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Please state your name, whether or not you were sworn in.
I've been sworn in.
Okay.
Dr. Deborah Patron.
Can you, pull the mic closer or speak louder?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dr. Deborah Patron, and I'm a member of the Milo Urban Area Commission.
Okay.
First thing I want to say, I go back, unfortunately. I pulled up the property 920 Cleveland Avenue, which is the property next to 914, where they were speaking of parking.
Okay.
According to the county auditor, it says residential.
The auditor doesn't denote zoning.
Okay. And are you sure it's commercial?
No, I'm not. I'm just telling you that the auditor does not denote zoning.
So just because someone says it's commercial doesn't mean it is. I don't know how to decide.
Well, the city can look that up. Can you guys?
It is commercial, we can, let me bring that up here. This is the property in question.
Okay, good. Well, that requires also people, there's no entrance from Cleveland Avenue, which means they'll have to use the alley. And I brought some photographs of the alley. There are a couple blind corners, and we've already talked, and also talked about Star Avenue. I'll pass these on. I left some notes. I think you've seen them last time I was here. They're loose because you might want to just leaf through them. Okay. And then another stack of the local medical marijuana locations. And they already have either parking on a street that has already had parking with lots, or in addition to parking lots. All of them have parking lots. I gave up my photographs. So you mentioned one employee, there'll be 10 employees. That's according to the original proposal. Okay, so they do need more parking spaces than just for one employee. They also have said it's appointment only, and if you have 10 employees, how can that be? Why would you have 10 employees if you have one person coming in at a time? They also spoke of demoing the structure behind it. I brought this up last time. It has to be permitted before they even decide to do that.
Say that again, ma'am.
The demo, that there's a structure behind. There's a structure behind that.
Wait, that's not.
No, did you propose to demolish that?
So we will, I'll reserve.
Yes.
Time, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, you're saying, what about the structure?
That structure behind there was an addition by the early owners.
Okay.
And they are proposing to demolish that.
Okay.
But we're talking about what ifs here.
Okay.
And I've mentioned this before, you have nothing to do with, I understand you have nothing to do with a demo permit, but it does need to be permitted before they can demolish it.
Okay. I didn't know, I missed what your point was about it.
That's where they will put the handicap.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Spot.
Okay.
Forgive me. So also an entrance through the alley. The alley is an entrance and for the handicap spot, I'm just not sure that's permissible. I don't know, but it seems like we have other businesses. There's the next door neighbor that is a residential structure. And then there are commercial buildings next to that. There are lots, but they belong to the people, that's further up. No, that's too far. Where the cement is, that's a gallery. There's a gallery and and a wood shop behind there. So people use that, and the owner of Milo Arts, and he owns those two. He will not use his, he will not allow parking in his area. So, let's see, we have, well,
3 minutes has elapsed. I would
well, then that's
wrap
my
up
3
the-
minutes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak about, please come forward.
I'm gonna give one back to them.
Yeah, those are hers.
Didn't know if you needed.
No, I don't.
Hi, good evening. My name is Angelique Sutton.
Were you sworn in?
Yes, I was.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm a Milo Area Growth Commissioner and also a resident. I guess I want to refer back to the grandfathering. Before that was not, if it was storage, it was only storage because it was vacant. Before that was a cleaners. So with it being a dry cleaners, the owner who owned it, of course, they had one car, but a person who was coming to pick up their cleaners, they were probably there maybe about 5 or 10 minutes. So it wasn't where it was like a long-term parking or anything like that. It was just the dry cleaners, and it had been there for years. So, and also too, I mean, I get that they want to be here, but there's other places that's there. We have a Wendy's that used to be a Wendy's. It has 2 entrances from Fifth Avenue to New York, has a drive-through. There's a lot of other accommodating places that's not so much residential, but on the main strip, you know, we're just kind of like, why the residential area, particularly that place across from the garden and other residential areas. That's another concern that we're having with that.
Okay.
I have a question for staff. Pull up the zoning map again for this and that, where that house is, because as I'm thinking about this, from time to time, city council will rezone an area. And I'm wondering, is that what happened here? Because these do appear to be residential areas. Like when was that, when was the house to the south made commercial? Because it's not a commercial, it's currently non-conforming, right? It's a residence.
Yeah, it's an existing non-conforming use.
So city council probably came in and rezoned as an area, this corridor.
Yeah, the corridor.
You guys understand this?
No.
So it looks like the effective date for the zoning of that section would have been February 27th, 1928.
Well, I doubt that, because that house was a house.
They could have also come in and gotten a special permit or something to allow residential on that property.
In 1928?
Between 28 and now, it could have been a commercial use, and then they came in and requested to allow single family home, single unit.
Okay.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak about this? Please come forward, sir.
My name is James Fink. Yes, I've been sworn in. I'm a resident at 601 East Second Avenue. I also own the property across the street. I know they're about to redo all of Second Avenue this year. And we only have one side of the street that's parking. I know they're also adding curb cuts. So ultimately this comes down to parking, it seems. And my concern is if it moves forward without, even if it's just a lease from an adjacent property, what happens when that lease is up? Constantly getting berated with phone calls from people trying to buy properties in our neighborhood. It's Cleveland's getting developed, you know, so the concern is just, we're trying to prevent the neighborhood from being a permitted neighborhood that has to be always you know, to apply for the permits when you live there and all that stuff, so. Yeah, ultimately, I think that's what we're all trying to do is not have this be a permitted neighborhood. In order to do that, that's why we tend to show up here. Stop that. I was here last year when we all showed up for a house that was gonna be like 3 units and 2 bedrooms in each and only had like 1 and 2 parking spots. And you guys supported us then and said the reality is the parking is just not a thing that will work for the neighborhood. So that's it.
Thank you.
Jamie has mentioned that before 1954, residential was allowed in commercial districts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just reading some of the letters that came in.
Somebody in the audience.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak to this? Please come forward.
My name is Daisy Nona, and I have been sworn in.
Okay, please state your testimony.
I've been sworn in.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to say, we have a Boys and Girls Club in the area. We are training our kids against drugs, and we have done this for years. No, there is not enough parking space for this, what she's expecting to do. Our children come right past there every day, every day. Children. If they had a large parking area, I wouldn't be against it. We have children that we're training not to take drugs and to bring it in the neighborhood where there's no parking space, where they cannot have leisure. We have a new Boys and Girls Club that was just built for our children. And this would be contradictory to what we are doing.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else wants to speak about this application? Okay.
Who's Ms. Morton?
Mandy Morton, she's a owner of Ohio Bound and an Ohio citizen.
Okay.
So,
Just a really quick question. Did you indicate in a meeting that you acquired this property knowing that it would require variances for the use? It's a yes or no?
No.
Okay.
did you guys, did you meet with the Milo Grogan? Let me ask it this way. Have you gone back to Milo Grogan Association now that you've changed from the 2-0 to 2-1 and gotten their vote?
We have been back to their meeting. The earliest agenda that they could put us on for a formal consideration of the issue was February 14th. So Ms. Morton attended the January meeting and had stood up to speak with the commission regarding it so that she could provide further information and speak with the community related to it. It's my understanding she was not permitted to speak at that meeting.
So you haven't gotten their vote on the 2-1, you haven't gotten a vote on this proposal that you're coming to us for right now?
We have their position as to the original request from
But when you came to us and said you wanted a reconsideration to ask for 2-1.
Correct.
You have not gone back to them to ask for their reconsideration vote on 2-1.
Correct, we've not gone back specifically for that reconsideration, but I feel like we've taken all of their voice complaints.
But you have not gotten their votes.
That's, well, go ahead.
Yeah, we were told, in
I
an
just
email
really want
that
a
we,
yes or no on that
We've
question.
not gotten a vote.
Okay.
Right. Whether that's required or not is a different issue.
Okay, so I think that that really is the preferred process for us, because otherwise, what are they there for if you're usurping their vote?
I greatly appreciate that point, and that's where we came
But-
today to point out all of the pieces that we have put in place in order to address.
But
the
if you didn't
concerns.
get their vote.
They would be the first meeting, we'd be the second.
Right.
So just as, for the record, as I understand it, that is not a requirement before coming here. for
It
this
is not,
hearing.
but we're in a different part of this process now. And part of your reconsideration request was that you could go back to them, not to come to us first and go back to them later.
So I don't know that, one way or the other, I don't know that was specifically part of our request, but what we did want to include in our rehearing here, and we did want to be able to submit, was to address some of the specific concerns that were raised for the first time at the first hearing. That was something that I had mentioned that is raised on, that was an issue for Ms. Morton because she was here and didn't have an opportunity to review those paperworks, which is what we worked to address today. My apologies, I'll sit closer to the microphone. So, long and short, what we worked very hard to try to do is to address each of the concerns of the community and the Milo Brogan Commission. At the original hearing on the issue where we had requested a variance from 2 to 0 parking spaces, there was a number of community members that had presented information through emails as well as orally that we hadn't had a chance to address. And that's one of the main points that we wanted to address before coming here for this rehearing. And I have many other points in response to the community members, and I think very legitimate and very well.
Right, but I think the way that the process is set up, that we kind of ensure that that happens, is we have you go to their meeting. And that's where that happens, and that gets worked out by them taking a vote. Because then they have the vote, they say what their concerns are, they have you come back and work that through. So you kind of coming to us and skipping over them is unfair to them. And it's really disrespectful to them.
I'm sorry, we were told by admin and Stephen, maybe this is, I know it's on record in email, but we were told that we did not have to reappear.
But, and I granted here, I understand and I hear you here today regarding wanting to make sure that we're addressing what the commission has said and making sure that they have an opportunity to continue to weigh in on all of these issues. And I will submit to this board that there has been considerable feedback from the commission and from the community, both prior to this hearing and at this hearing here today, that I'd like to address a little further with some of my remaining time. And I believe at this juncture, we have Ohio bound, and I just would like to submit this on the record, has gone what I believe is now, well, through a lease on an adjoining parcel.
You what?
Although through a lease on an adjoining parcel, now has, for purposes of the use of this, for purposes of the operation of the dispensary, far above and beyond what would be the minimum requirement of parking on the parcel itself. And so
You have a lease?
we have a letter of intent for the lease.
So that's not a lease.
Not at this time, but we're willing for, as part of a variance grant, to have it be a contingency of it to have those parking spaces.
And
facilities.
and before the community was able to speak, I said, would you be willing to self-impose that? And I appreciate you saying yes. But subsequently, I hear from the community that that owner has no intent. Now, I can't go back and forth between, and I don't want you to do that either. But again, that's part of finding out what's happening with Milo Brogan. You going there to have that conversation and having those discussions so that this isn't the first time they hear it, and hopefully it's not the last, right? So I appreciate you saying that, but let's be clear, it's a letter of intent that I can write them a letter of intent.
Fair enough. I will say that the date of our letter of intent is today's date. So we've been working hard to secure that, and it's taken some time to get to where we are today. And we have that presented to you as part of our record here today.
But that could have swayed Milo Brogan mission too, in their February meeting, to present that to them. And then you're gonna get a yes vote from them, right? It just seems, I don't know, I'm just not. We have sent applicants like you, when there is confusion, like there is, right, we have sent applicants back to the commission to work through this. Because that's just the process that the city has established. And
I was told to interject that James' conversation with them was that they would not need to reappear at Milo Brogan if they were okay with the original vote of disapproval.
oh,
Is that clear for you?
That's, yeah. And understanding that, you know, they have concerns with respect to parking, and we're working hard to address those concerns. And if it is the board's desire that we go back before the Mount Brogan board, we're here to serve this community, and we want to be a community player. So
but you
that's
can't say that though, if you're not really taking the steps to go back to.
So I mean, certainly we have reached out to them on numerous occasions, and we are on their agenda in February, right? And, you know, we appreciate the interjection to provide some updates as to the correspondence that we had. And then if I can address a few of the points that the committee members have made here today.
Let's let you go to them in their February meeting.
Okay.
And vet the letter of intent. I mean, hopefully by then you will have the lease, right?
Certainly.
And then that can be vetted, and the other issues that they've raised, you can address that all with them. They can give their approval vote, you can come back here and it'll be smooth sailing.
Would we be permitted to be at the next hearing on
If you get
February?
if you get your,
We can't speak to
yeah,
that.
then you gotta get your things in and applications in.
Right, certainly, I think for the most part, our application is in, and we'll include whatever
Yeah,
supplement.
it's
Yeah, I
the
mean,
next available,
Yeah,
so.
it's notices go out by a certain time, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, if that's what this board would like us to do, we're obliging to that.
No, what happens is you will request a tabling from us. If not, we can go forward and we can vote.
So it's
If
up
we
to
take
you.
a vote, then you have to come back and ask for reconsideration. So it's up to you.
Certainly. Can I, one moment?
Yes.
We will request to table this issue until the next available hearing for our ability to appeal before Milo Grogan on February 14th.
I move that we table this matter to the next available meeting.
Second.
So move, can we call the roll?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Malaka?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes.
Will the area residents be notified again in the mail?
Always.
Always.
Yes,
Will that be, who has the keys that? Because only one neighbor got notices passed around.
that's a question that you should talk to staff about when you get a chance.
email. I'll give you an email address. We'll show you the list that we have, and then if there's someone.
Thank you very much.
Okay. 2973 McCutcheon. Please state your name for the record, please, or whether or not you were sworn in.
Kim Mechanic, I'm sworn in.
Community members, can you please take the conversation outside because it's echoing and we cannot hear? Sorry, ma'am, can you restate that? I couldn't hear.
I'm Kim Mechanic, I've been sworn in.
Thank you. Excuse me, we can't hear, or we can't hear you, that's what we can hear.
2973 McCutcheon is located on the southeast corner of McCutcheon Road and Seltzer Road. It is zone C4 commercial and is part of the Northeast Area Commission. The 0.49 acre site is undeveloped. Surrounding uses are a fuel station to the east, and a retail establishment to the west, and an undeveloped parcel to the north, and a retail shopping center to the south. The applicant proposes to construct a mixed-use office and retail building. The variances are being requested to reduce the minimum setback from the right of way for a corner lot located within the Columbus Thoroughfare Plan. Planning is in full support of this proposal. The site plan and the elevations are consistent with the Northeast Area Plan guidelines. The Division of Traffic Management state that the applicant should be advised that for the final site compliance plan, the configuration of right-in only and right-out only access points will need to be revised to more closely resemble the geometry of the applicable portions of standard drawings, and that preparation of a Shore East Street construction plan will be required in conjunction with this proposed development. The Northeast Area Commission recommends approval of the request. City staff recommends approval as the elevations are consistent with the Northeast Area Plan guidelines and the constraints of the lot size make it difficult to develop a code compliant site.
Go ahead, do you have anything to add to the application?
I really don't have much to add. It's kind of an awkward site. We've gone through a few iterations to, and feel like we've landed on this, something that's, would be usable on this site without being too detrimental, because it is a busy corner, but, feel like we've managed to comply with everything we can. Just setbacks really took away a lot of the space of the site to build on, so that's our only request at this point.
Okay, is anybody here to speak about this application?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Holmer?
Yes, variance is granted, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
2324 Cleveland Avenue. 2324 Cleveland Avenue. Oh, okay. Please state your name and whether or not you've been sworn in.
It's Michael Hostro.
Can you speak into the mic?
Michael Hostro.
Hostro, got you, okay. Go ahead.
All right, so BZA 22110, 2324 Cleveland Avenue. It's located on the east side of Cleveland Avenue, approximately 30 feet south of Mulvey Place. It is part of the North Linden Area Commission. It is also currently zoned C4 Commercial District. The 0.2 acre site is located within the urban commercial overlay and was undeveloped until roughly 2019. The applicant has since established an automobile dealership on site and in December 2019 was subsequently cited for operating without obtaining zoning clearance. Surrounding uses are single unit dwellings to the west and south, a multi-unit dwelling to the north, and a medical office to the west. The applicant is proposing to legitimize the conversion of the vacant lot to an automobile dealership and is requesting variances to increase the maximum building setback from 10 feet to 21 feet, to reduce the width of a principal building along a primary building frontage from 60% of the lot width to 15%, to reduce the amount of clear, non-tinted window glass in the area between the height of 2 feet and 10 feet above the nearest sidewalk or shared use path grade from 60% to 5%, and to increase the height of a fence from 4 feet to 6 feet. Both North Linden Neighborhood Plan Amendment 2014 and Columbus Citywide Planning Policies C2P2 Design Guidelines recommend parking lots should not front primary corridors and be hidden from view to the greatest extent possible. C2P2 guidelines further state chain link fencing is not supported as screening. Staff are generally supportive of the requested variances, but request that the proposal include urban commercial overlay style black metal tube fencing or a low wall with landscaping for greater consistency with design guidelines for auto and parking areas. That was planning's comments. The Division of Traffic Management states that right-of-way dedication of 50 feet from the center line of Cleveland Avenue will be required per CCC 4309.17. The North Linden Area Commission recommends approval. City Department's recommendation is also approval. Staff can recommend approval as the revised site plan resolves many of the issues brought up by the Planning Division. i.e. replacement of existing chain link fencing with black metal tubing and addition of landscaping which bring the site more into conformance with the C2P2 policies, the urban commercial overlay, and the neighborhood in general.
Chairman.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to the application? Okay, do you have any questions for the applicant? Is there anybody here that wishes to speak about this application? Okay, sir, you might be our fastest person here tonight. Are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the call.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Malaka?
Yes.
Chair Farmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
898, 900 Sunbury Road. Oh, you need that good little chair?
Sorry.
You're gonna be quick.
Be quick.
Okay. Can you state your names for the record and say whether or not you've been sworn in?
I'll go first. I'm David Hodge, attorney for the applicant. I have been sworn.
Okay,
Ray A. Jones, I have been sworn in.
okay,
This might have said Alvarez Jones. I've been.
okay, good.
All right, me again, BZA 22-140, 898 through 900 Sunbury Road is located at the southwest corner of Sunbury Road and Ridgeway Avenue. It is part of the North Central Area Commission and existing zoning is the C4 Commercial District. The 0.23 acre site is currently developed with a vacant 2-story mixed-use establishment with 2 commercial spaces on the first floor fronting Sunbury Road and 2 dwellings on the second floor. The applicant proposes to establish an eating and drinking establishment in the first floor of the structure. The applicant is thus requesting variances to reduce the number of required parking spaces from 39 to 9, to allow pavement within the parking setback, to allow maneuvering between the parking setback line and right-of-way line, to allow a parking spot to encroach in the amount of 1.5 feet into the 10-foot parking setback area, and to reduce the Sunbury Road and Ridgeway Avenue building setbacks from 30 feet and 25 feet respectively to 0 feet to legitimize an existing condition. Planning is in full support of this proposal. The revised site plan identifies parking lot screening to the north and east utilizing opaque, non-chain link fencing, as well as the planter boxes to provide a landscape buffer between the patio and Sunbury Road. Staff continue to recommend removal of the gate as well as consultation with the city forester as to the feasibility of street trees on the Sunbury and Ridgeway frontages, but do not condition support on these revisions. After review of the required parking study, Parking Services supports this variance. Traffic notes that a 50-foot right-of-way dedication from the center line of Sunbury Road will be required per CCC 4309.17, but advises that this need not hold up this BZA application. And as I understand it, they had applied for an exception to that requirement, and that has been approved since the writing of this report.
Exception to the right of way?
Correct.
Okay.
To the 50-foot setback. North Central Area Commission recommends approval of this request. Likewise, the city department's recommendation is approval. Staff can recommend approval of the requested variances as the applicant has submitted a revised site plan reflecting changes recommended by planning. The applicant is also taking proper steps to seek an exemption from the 50-foot right-of-way requirement through Department of Traffic Management, as I mentioned, that has been resolved. Finally, and this is development from the tabling from December, finally, the applicant has secured agreements with the owners of surrounding parking lots for access to overflow parking, mitigating the parking reduction variance. We do recommend that the condition that the applicant will commit to the stamped site plan be applied. And I will go ahead and get that stamped.
Okay. Where is the adjacent parking?
Let's, if we could have the adjacent property owner come up and let's tackle that issue first. If you could state your name here for the record and let them know about the parking agreement that you have.
My name's Dino Smith and I have been sworn in.
Okay.
At 5th and Sunbury, the southeast corner of 5th and Sunbury, there's a convenience store. At most 10 cars at a time. Very seldom isn't that.
Okay.
There's better than 30 spaces there.
Okay.
Along Sunbury, along 5th Avenue.
Okay.
There's plenty of parking.
Okay.
In addition, I may want to just suggest one of the, we also secured parking across, on Ridgeway and Nelson Road. There is an additional around 23 or 25 parking. Their parking lot is our parking lot now.
Okay.
And that's right across the street from Shepherd Library, but it's on the corner of, on the southwest corner of Ridgeway Avenue, and North Nelson Road.
So let me.
That's a little far.
Well, okay.
But I'm okay with the parking at this point, so I think you're good,
Yeah, it seems
but it's kind of far.
the first one is right there in the blue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct, and these
I
sites.
appreciate you doing that, but I don't think it's necessary.
So just overall, really, I mean, I think the application itself, the staff's comments, it really demonstrates kind of an extensive and exhaustive effort in making sense of this property. It is here, as staff mentioned, with a unanimous recommendation of approval from the area commission, both the full commission and the zoning committee. One thing that the staff didn't mention was there was work directly with the Civic Association here, the Shepherd Civic Association. They also unanimously recommended approval. They were asked to do a parking study, which they conducted, submitted to traffic management and those folks, and this passes muster from a parking study perspective. It really is a great appropriate reuse of a building that has been derelict and will in fact breathe some new life into a neighborhood that needs a little new life breathed into it.
I like it. Have you thought any more about what's going to be upstairs?
No, that may be 2-3 years from now, 4 years. Our focus is, my wife has a tremendous reputation in this community of operating a cafe coffee shop, which she has been doing for the past 16 years. And so our focus is on a cafe. It's to some extent, there's bringing a bit of history. This same 900 Sunbury Road location did have a restaurant in there at one time. And there was never, ever, and they had maybe 18, 20 more houses in the immediate area, and there was never, ever an issue of parking.
The reason I bring up the upstairs is because, as I shared with you, when we make a decision here, it follows the land.
Right.
So should you go up there, and I'll ask Mr. Hodge, do you think that could be like 4 one-bedroom apartments upstairs? What could it be? Because we want to, and I want to anticipate that.
Right.
So that we say, well, it's still adequate parking, not only for this use, but if he were to clear out the apartments upstairs, and make it a residential rental where you need 4 more spaces, we can still accommodate.
Yeah, so let me, I think, I caught this case tonight. I think that some assumption must have been made for that use for the purpose of completion of the application. And I don't know if we could ask Mr. Kirk if there was some assumption made for finishing the second floor and how that square footage was incorporated into this application.
That would have been incorporated based on the previous use. So the previous uses, there are 2 apartment dwellings above. But for, that is how that parking calculation would have been made.
Okay, perfect.
Already considered it.
Yeah, and so that's incorporated in. If anybody wants to do something different, they're gonna be right back here, having this conversation, having a public process to get a further reduction in the parking requirements.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, is anybody here to speak about this application? Okay, do we have any further questions for the applicant?
I'll call a question.
Questions been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Malika?
Yep.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Tom Bailey?
Yes, Mrs. Brandon. Good luck with projects. 4960 Comstock Drive. Hello, please state your names, when you were sworn in.
Heidi Bolliard, Simplified Living Architecture. I'm not.
Not been sworn in, okay.
Barbara Vermillier, I have been sworn in.
Okay, can you raise your hand? You promise that the testimony gives nothing but the truth, nothing but the truth. Please say that I do. Thank you.
Sure. All right, BZA 22-143 and 4960 Comstock Drive is located on the north side of Comstock Drive, approximately 575 feet west of the intersection of Comstock Drive and Lisbon Drive. It is part of the Greater Southeast Area Commission and is zoned SR Residential District. The .16 acre site is currently developed with a single unit dwelling. The surrounding uses are similar to single unit dwellings. The applicant proposes to convert an existing attached garage to ADA accessible living space. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the parking setback line from 25 feet to 18 feet to allow for parking in the driveway. Columbus citywide planning policies, C2P2 planning design guidelines states that blank walls should not be presented to the primary street and building materials should be of high quality and durability. They further state that the appropriateness of projects should be measured in terms of height, width, setbacks, and lot coverage. The existing garage meets these guidelines. The Division of Traffic Management has no comments. Greater Southeast Area Commission recommends approval of this request. However, unfortunately, City Department's recommendation is disapproval, as staff consistently recommends disapproval to parking in required front and side yards based on established precedent. Sure.
So Eleanor, to give you some context, they were here before, and I'd love to hear what's new.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So, the couple things that they didn't bring up before. So currently at the front door of the home, it has 2 steps going in, 2 small steps going in. There's no 3 foot by 3 foot landing like is required by code now. And they need that landing as they're coming in and out of their home. They trip going in. You can't put groceries in and things like that without having some type of landing like outside your door. So even with putting just a landing there to bring that front porch up to code interferes with the use of the garage. Like you can no longer park a garage or a car in the garage because that landing sticking out and then having to add steps. Like that's just a safety.
Is that your case here?
No, I'm just
Okay.
stating things that are not to code with this
So
home.
what are you trying, when you say
That's
no,
on her, then she's not code compliant.
Well,
So
the
she can
home,
be
the
cited.
existing home is not code compliant, which they would like to add a landing just because it's not safe.
But that's not what you're asking for, is it?
so when you
Well,
say
it's because I'm just like stating my case about the parking. So we're already like with the where the parking is at, like with adding that landing, we're gonna use access for a car to use the garage. Not to mention that a car wouldn't be able to park outside of that garage as well. So that's part of it. They have a granddaughter that has to move in with them who's in a wheelchair.
sorry, where are you trying to park?
Well, the requirement to park is there's one car in the garage.
Okay.
Well, as it stands by code, there's one car that sits in the garage and then one
That can park
that's parallel. But there is no way to even get a car
in front of that because you said.
in that
this
spot.
step.
Well, and not even, like, just as it is now, a car can't pull in there and park
Right there.
right in front of the house without like driving on the grass, driving on their neighbor's property.
So
Like,
you're
it's
saying-
just not feasible.
Okay, so you're saying right now, you're parking perpendicular
They're both,
to,
yeah,
okay,
they're already parking 2 cars in the driveway.
okay. And so you're saying you would like to have permission to do that?
Well, yeah, so we are converting the existing 1-car garage because even once we add that landing, like the garage can't be used for a car. So
So
they need
tell me
it,
what the picture is on the right, that like, what is this?
This is the living space that the garage is being changed into.
converted to.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so that's just, okay.
So they need an ADA accessible space.
An ADA accessible living space or?
Yeah,
parking
for
space?
well, both for accessible, like for them to get in and out of the space, which is why the new door is being added so that there's a larger door to be able to get a wheelchair in and out of. And then also having a bathroom, the home was built back in 64. Yeah, in 64. Like there's a small bathroom on the inside of the house, like there's not a lot of space in, the very modest home now. So they can't lose additional bedroom space to create an ADA bathroom within the house. So our thought was to create this ADA space for their grandchild within this. They're in the process of taking custody, correct? Of their child, the grandchild. But currently they have nowhere for the grandchild to be within the space. And they don't want to move to a different home. So beyond that, we need to add an ADA ramp.
So were you cited for a code violation?
No.
Oh, so how did you know that you needed to come to us?
Because we needed to get because when they went in for, the ADA ramp, we didn't need a variance for because it's an ADA ramp. However, when they went in for permit, they found out that we were we needed a parking variance.
Okay.
You need a setback variance, not a parking
Or-
variance.
Okay,
Correct.
setback variance for the parking.
Yeah. So.
But even if they were to just not even do the.
Yeah, I was
ramp,
gonna say,
just like-
even without the ADA thing, they can't park their car in front of their garage.
They never could.
They
when the
never
house was
could.
built.
Exactly, so I'm saying, so they have a non-conforming.
No, absolutely not. They have a garage that they're looking to abandon.
No, but I'm saying they have a house that they cannot use a parking space.
They have adequate parking. They are code.
No, the code would say you have 2 spots, one in the garage and one outside of the garage, and they don't have that spot. They don't have use of the spot.
I don't know that code says you have 2 spots. Code allows for
No,
you
they
to park
say
right in
that
front
when
of
we,
the garage.
no, code would say that those are the 2 spots, because when we look at,
You're talking about right behind the garage.
yeah, they would say
I
that's
hear you.
allowable parking space.
Well, what I'm saying is they have adequate parking. They're abandoning that for the sake of using the space for a good reason. I get it. To make this garage, their existing parking, into a livable space. They're creating this.
No, they're abandoning one of their spots, but they're one of their spots that they don't have.
I respectfully disagree with you.
But even like adding an ADA, like without abandoning the garage, even with adding the ramp to the front of the home, which is non-negotiable, that has to be done. There is nowhere to put that ramp at the front of the house, which isn't gonna completely block the garage. It's gonna completely block
Allowing
that
the car
other,
to get into the garage.
correct. But it also, the other space that they're calling the second spot also is gonna be completely filled up with a ramp. Like, this is an ADA issue. Like, this is ADA's law.
She has a point there, Michael.
I feel like so in a lot of situations like yours, people get an ADA space on the street, get a parking.
No,
space.
not the ADA space, it's the ADA access into the house.
But it's, ADA is not required for this house because it's residence.
Yeah, but
All houses, no houses get required ADA access.
Can you pull up
But
a
isn't
picture
the
of
right as the homeowner to be able to add handicap ramp to their
Yes,
property?
absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm just
Absolutely.
saying it's not mandate.
right, but I'm saying if a homeowner is wanting to add an ADA ramp to their front door, I mean, this is not saying this is a unreasonable request. They're wanting to add an ADA ramp to their front door.
Yeah.
There's no other way to do it.
There is, I see it now. Because as you talk about that landing, that space between the right side of the garage and the front of the house, that's more than adequate for a landing. And the ramp can go in front of the picture window and then down the driveway. So it's an L or a 45-degree angle. So it can easily be accomplished. I mean, people do that all the time.
If you pull up the site plan that we have there, is there any way to zoom into that? I don't.
Yeah, hold on. Let me,
Is it wide?
better or?
Yeah, because that whole landing.
It's gonna be another totally.
So it's a 1-car garage. Yeah. So it can go right here.
The landing?
The landing would go here in front of the door, and then it would go this way, and then this way.
But then where would the car go?
I'd have to look at your car, but still, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, but they bought the house knowing that it would be difficult to navigate into that garage. I'm just trying to do something that makes sense here, you know what I mean?
Well, let's just, okay. Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this?
So just to note, like they didn't buy the house knowing that they would need an ADA ramp. They bought this house in 1999 when their granddaughter is 16 years old.
No, I appreciate
They
that.
didn't realize they were going to be stuck in this position. And they
Certainly,
don't
I'm
like-
saying they bought it knowing that the navigation for themselves would be a 45-degree angle to get into that garage. That's what I'm saying, they bought that knowing that.
Right, and
That's
that's not, yeah, they knew that, but they don't,
That's all.
that hasn't, that still doesn't allow, like the parking requirement is 2 cars, not, or like outside, or, yeah, within the setback, which can't be done. Like you were mentioning, like there's no way to park a second car really, like,
But there are 100
physically.
homes in this neighborhood like this.
I know.
This is not unique to this house.
Okay, is there anybody here that wants to speak to this application?
There's also several homes in this neighborhood that only have a 1-car garage and they park their second car in the driveway and it's in the setback constantly, if not 2 cars constantly in the setback.
Right, and I think the code at that time allowed for them to have literally 1 car. Because we've seen many of them. The only difference here is this one's perpendicular rather than parallel. But again, there's 100 houses, so this is just the beginning. This is a neighborhood that has 100 houses in this neighborhood that are just like this. And that's part of the challenge, ma'am, is because when we say yes to you, we say yes to everybody.
The only thing I would speak to is this, and I was looking at the plan specifically. The plan specifically is an ADA accessible space. Inside, interior. So
Living space.
Yes, so they're retrofitting this specifically for a use that is an ADA accessible use. So I think there's an argument to say that you can't generalize that a neighborhood could do this, but if somebody was trying to give accommodations to somebody who needs accessibility, meaning we're seeing a plan here that is showing an ADA bathroom, a 0 threshold shower, whatever. Yeah, could they do it in the back?
That makes the most sense.
But the thing is the hallways aren't even wide enough in the house. They're only 3 feet. Like, so to actually get her wheelchair through there, like that's why we're putting bigger than a 3-foot door on this. Because 3 foot is really challenging for the wheelchair to get through.
I get it. I completely get it. I just don't know that this is the best alternative. I see an opportunity to add on to this house, but in the back where it's not intrusive and you don't even have to come to us. You can do all your retrofitting on the inside.
The thing is we still have to put the ramp on the front, which then eliminates the use of the garage because you can't access that at that point. You can't pull a car into the garage.
Let me tell you how easy this would be for me. If you created the ramp, where I described creating the ramp, and came in and asked for a variance for this parking space, this setback, I'd gladly do it. But you're compiling a lot. It's like you're saying, well, we want to take the garage away and we're going to convert it to a livable space. And we want to be able to do this with a ramp. And I'm saying it would make so much more sense to me and be palatable if you were adding that addition to the back corner of the house, using your garage space, and then using the using the ramp along the front of the house and then down the side, as I described. And you're not creating any greater difficulty than you already have for parking in your garage with that 45-degree angle. And you don't even have to be here to ask us for that.
Well, I think we have exhausted discussion on this.
I just feel
We
bad.
will take the vote. Does anybody call the question?
Don't they have, yeah. Yeah, I don't.
Don't they have what?
No, I just don't know how we're going to fit this ramp on this property.
Have you consulted with anybody? I mean, that would be the first step.
Well, I'm an architect, so I've designed it.
Okay, you're the consultant.
Does the house have a basement?
Yes.
Guys, I don't think we can solve the issue. It's not really our job right here.
Well, and I was just, looking to
in the vote.
Okay, I'll call the question.
Isn't it against the law that to not let somebody try to have a handicap accessible?
We're not saying you can't
dwelling?
have a handicap accessible ramp, ma'am.
Well, why wouldn't you make it so difficult that we couldn't have this?
I'm not making anything difficult. The house is there.
All I know is that we were gonna, it was being brought up 3 feet to go into a small room we had. And that was gonna fit the wheelchair to come in to be with the rest of the family through the front of the house. And then we would have total access, because when you go in the house, we have the front room, like a little living room, a walk-in kitchen, and then you can open the front door and go straight to the back. And so we wanted that so that she would have that with us, because we couldn't go to the other office.
I think what's being suggested, ma'am, is that there's ways to do it that can be code compliant. That's what I think is being suggested. Because we'll take the votes and we can take it from there.
Sorry.
Sir, did you have something to say on the record?
What is this?
I can't.
Yeah, you have to come up and state your name and whether or not you get sworn in.
Chris Brand.
Go ahead.
I've not been sworn in.
You promise that the testimony gives tonight be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please say I do.
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to see if it was potential, if we could possibly, unfortunately, table again. I don't think that we're gonna get to where we need to do, to where we could maybe work on the plans with the architect to get to where we need to go.
And you are related to this project, how?
I'm, one of the people that are helping to work for the construction company.
Oh, got you, okay.
So we're working with Heidi, obviously, and then we came last month, and talked, and then if it's possible, if we could table again to, if she could change the plans to maybe more of your specification or something, that we get an idea so we could get to the promised land.
And I really don't want to feel like I'm giving specifications. I'm just trying to find alternatives.
And I, yeah, and the same thing, I mean, we want to get this done and all that stuff, so if that's our best option, then, we would appreciate it from the board. It doesn't seem like we're headed for, anything.
Okay, because.
So,
Well, and I think that the one big challenging thing is that right now they're trying to convert the garage to keep the cost down of converting this space. They weren't planning to be taking custody of their 16-year-old granddaughter to be living with them. So to build an entire one-story addition at the back of their house, from the foundation to the roof, cost them a lot more money than it's going to cost them to convert the existing garage space.
I hope you understand our challenge. I know you're seeing it as though we're like obstructing your opportunity. And what I'm looking at in particular, and I'm sure my colleagues are as well, when we say yes to this, the other 100 homes, and I'm speculating, that are in your community that are just like yours, now have license to come in here and ask us to do the same thing. And for us to say no to them on a case-by-case basis would almost appear discriminatory. And I'm hoping to avoid that. And that's why we look to create as much consistency in our decision-making as possible. It's not that we don't want you to have this. We understand that this set of circumstances was not yours by choosing it. It's a part of life, and we get it. And I'm trying to make suggestions on other alternatives about creating this space to accommodate your expanding family, so that it doesn't create a precedent throughout your community where others will try to do the same thing. And we already see that it's an epidemic where people are doing exactly maybe what you're doing.
They're already doing it without permission all around my area.
We get it. And all this one domino that falls, and then they call on the next person, and then they call on the next person, and then everybody ends up in
But
here.
they've already done it.
Yeah, but they're doing it legally.
You
So
do realize
yes,
that, right?
I understand that. So my husband and I are getting penalized because we're going legal. Do you understand where I'm coming from, the emotional end?
Absolutely.
We're doing the right thing, which we always try to do, and we get nothing.
Right, but we've had people that have gotten called on the carpet on that, and we've had people have to tear up driveways, tear down fences because they've done it and they're not code compliant. And they get called. So you don't want to be in
We're
that
just
situation.
asking for a variance and setback. That's all we're doing.
We understand what you've asked for.
Well, and I really do understand setting precedents, like it's important not to. However, this is being done for
to create ADA accessibility to this home.
And we're not saying no to that because that's not on the table, right? That's not even here for us. So I'd say go ahead and call the question.
Yeah, if you want to take the vote or you want to table it, it's up to you.
We can table it.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we table this case to the next available date.
Second.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mayor Palmer Bailey?
Yes, table it.
Thank you.
guys. Absolutely, thank you, guys.
Thank you. We're taking a break.
She gets up, it's a forced.
Right, but I'm trying to look at like how long we're going to
We really know who's the boss, right?
That's what I was hopeful. He's a wild card. I don't know what-
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
3645, 3665 North High Street.
PCA 22-146 for 3645 through 3665 North High Street. It's located on the west side of North High Street between Winthrop Road and Northmore Place. Is zone C4 Commercial District and located in Clintonville Area Commission. The 0.58 acre site is currently developed with a neighborhood shopping center. The surrounding uses include a single unit dwelling to the west, a realtor's office to the south, a multi-unit residential dwellings to the east and north. The applicant proposes to change the use of the tenant space from retail to an eating and drinking establishment and to install a front patio. The variance requested is to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 61 to 40. Planning notes that they are in full support of the proposal. The revised site plan includes bicycle parking above code required minimums to offset the requested parking reduction consistent with Clintonville neighborhood plan guidelines. As the proposal is located on North High Street with access to multiple modes of transit and the request reflects existing conditions of the site, the variance is supported. Division of Traffic Management has no comments. The Clintonville Area Commission recommends approval of this variance. And staff can recommend approval of the requested variance because the applicant has provided bicycle parking in excess of what was requested to offset the loss of parking spaces. Staff is requesting the condition that the applicant will commit to providing 6 bicycle parking spaces. And I'd also like to note that since this application was heard last month, the applicant has added 2 additional bicycle spaces because it was brought up by traffic afterwards that by providing 4, they weren't actually in excess of what was required. So now with the 6, they are.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Hodge, you have anything else to add to the application?
I do. So David Hodge with law firm Underhill and Hodge, attorney for the applicant and property owner. This is a multi-tenant retail building in Clintonville. It was built around 2004, 2005, and I was reading some notes as we flipped through the slides. I don't know if there's a photograph of the architecture here, but it really is a very, that does it not so much justice, but you can get a sense of the flavor. It really is an attractive building. Historically been very successful here in this part of Clintonville. It has had some tenant turnover with different restaurants and retailers and spas and salon type uses in there. The genesis of this application is that center space that you see there. It's Chase Bank, a branch without a drive-through. The Chase Bank did not renew their lease. They have a great tenant that wants to come in and reuse that retail space for a restaurant. And so we have requested a reduction in the parking for 19 parking spaces. If you go back to the aerial photograph that you had up there, and zoom in if you can.
Now we can get any Google Maps, hold on, that'll be better.
And you'll see that all along the perimeter of this property, based upon that previous approval in 0304 is really mature, healthy landscaping that provides a great perimeter buffer here, transitional from this C4 use back into the neighborhood. And, you know, we didn't zone High Street through Clintonville C4, High Street through Clintonville's been zone C4, allowing a mix of, you know, restaurant and retail uses since zoning. And so, you know, we're not here asking for a use here. We're just asking for the ability to bring in an alternative tenant. The other reason I like this aerial photograph is it gives you a flavor of the demand on the parking space here. And through discussions with the Clintonville Area Commission, the auditor's office has a great feature where you can go look at historical aerial photographs, starting back from when the property was developed. I took all those iterations through the years, and it has been very rare for this parking lot to be excessively full, such that there's a parking issue here. Have had a really successful process with the Clintonville Area Commission. Their zoning and variance committee, they call it, unanimously recommended approval. There was a neighbor at that meeting. I believe we'll hear from him in a few minutes. He was at the zoning and variance committee. This then went on to the full Clintonville Area Commission, who also, in the face of, you know, that conversation, saw appropriate to recommend approval here to the board of this variance request. You heard from the city staff and the planning staff. Certainly traffic management takes a look at this throughout, and they've determined that on this stretch of High Street, pedestrian neighborhood, healthy sidewalks, and overabundance of bike parking that we're providing on the bus route, that this type of development in 2022 warrants a reduction in the parking. I'm going to stop there. I'd be happy to answer any board questions. I'm going to stop there, but after we hear from the neighbor, I do want to come back and address the Duncan factors and how that applies to this particular variance that we are requesting.
Hang tight.
Yes, sir.
Why did we not have a unanimous, because this was last month. That's correct.
May I answer that question?
Okay, you weren't here.
I wasn't here. That meeting also went long, and I had another meeting to get to. My colleague Eric Zartman was standing in my shoes that night. I believe that night was also a 3-member board, and another member who's no longer a part of this board has historically had an issue with parking reductions, and I think that the tea leaves were such that, with reference to that particular member, who there was somewhat of a straw vote taken, that there was no way to have a unanimous board that evening, and so we requested that.
So to be clear, I just remembered, there was some history of many variances that took place on this site, and that needs to be unpacked.
Okay, sure. I wasn't aware of that particular issue, but sure.
The gentleman will point that out to you.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's open it up for.
Please come. And did staff verify any of that?
Sir, can you,
Verify.
yeah, thank
What?
you. I was just going to direct you to sign and then speak.
The variances that the community member alleges exist and have existed.
Yeah, I provided him with the previous approval that listed all of the, listed the previous
So you-
variances
okay.
and the conditions attached to it.
So Eleanor, the case will be the case, but this young man was able to present, just like we always look at the decision we make today, what's the impact 10 or 20 years from now? They basically gave us a 20-year look back to say several variances had already been given on this site.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's what I wanted to kind of unpack.
Okay, sir, can you state your name, whether or not you've been sworn in?
My name is Sherwin Singer, and I have not been sworn in.
Okay, raise your right hand. You promise that the testimony you give tonight be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'm speaking on behalf of my household and 4 others on the block of Northmore adjacent to High Street. Our block is adjacent to retail and apartments north on High Street, the fire station to the south, and higher volume businesses further to the south. At present, thanks to zoning restrictions when the building in question tonight was built in 2003, we do not have high-volume food service restaurants that we see on the other side of High Street, like Wendy's and Starbucks. Because of neighborhood concerns, it was zoned with 26 restrictions at the time, and I've got copies if you like.
The whole side of the street?
The retail strip that's
Okay,
in question
that's,
tonight. Okay, and it had the intentional effect of limiting the property to one low-volume restaurant and 2 retail stores. And these zoning restrictions included a reduced parking capacity variance that was granted to 1 restaurant with drive-through limited to coffee operations. In 2015, there was a variance that allowed a Sbarro pizza place, which is also low volume. It demanded leased parking to be provided within 750 feet of the site. It required 15 parking spaces to be provided for off-site for employees, and restrictions on the operation, delivery, trash pickup, etc. Even with 1 restaurant, the parking lot is sometimes near full, as shown in the photographs. That's the last page that you see. That this is very misleading. That of all the different photographs that Mr. Hodge downloaded and gave us before, more than half show the parking lot in full use. Okay, so we are simply asking the board to maintain the character of our neighborhood by maintaining the existing zoning. Okay, so that's basically what I have to say. I can address some points that you raised at the last meeting. You know, we've heard about, you know, trash collection hours and stuff like that. But I think the applicant should address the parking requirements. We should at least hear that they're willing to go along with these restrictions. And then you asked me whether a Bed Bath & Beyond would be preferable. And I forgot to tell you, you're my hero, that would be just great. There's no dinner rush for Bed Bath & Beyond. I think it'd be great.
I think it was the gentleman in this seat, not necessarily me.
It was you.
It was me?
It was
Bed Bath
you.
& Beyond is pretty specific. It was you. Okay. Thank you.
You know, and we discussed, well, you know, Starbucks is used by the neighbors, but, you know, there's a long line of cars I see there early in the morning, in the evening, and that affects the enjoyment and value of the property near there.
So you said they should address the parking restrictions. What parking restrictions are you speaking to?
Excuse me, the requirements for off-site parking. There are 2 items in the 26 that have requirements for off-site parking. One, 15 spaces for employees, and the other for leased parking for overflow.
Yeah, because
Oh, I see what you're saying. Number 8
and number 1.
and number 1.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, you know, we knew what we were getting into, buying a house close to High Street, but we had the protections of the zoning. And, you know, the current owners, well, they knew what they were getting into, buying a property with these zoning requirements.
Okay. Okay. We can have the applicant speak to these. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hodge, do you have this? Okay.
The case that those conditions were introduced on is from 2003, and in 2015, there was another application to get rid of the
Coffee shop
only the coffee service through the drive-through window.
and allowed to be Sbarro through the window.
Anything, I believe.
Okay.
But just for full history of,
Wow. It's a lot of.
But none of this was modified.
as far as I'm aware, just the one that stipulated only coffee be served through the window.
Now, I was not aware of the 2015 action, so that one is news to me. I was aware of the previous action.
Okay.
So, several things that I would like to discuss, and I haven't seen, the photograph that was just submitted, and the notion that information I provided was misleading. You know, I simply referenced the Google aerial photograph and the photographs that are all available, on the county auditor's website, which I would ask be incorporated by reference in here. I think the statement was that I was misleading at the Clintonville Area Commissions because the pictures that I submitted didn't show the parking lot full. I simply printed off the pictures that were available on the county auditor's office and showed that in reality over a course of years, random times.
When did your client purchase the property?
My client purchased the property within the last year and a half or so. They were not the original owner and developer of the property.
Were they aware of all of this,
They were not.
even though it's a public record?
Even though it's a public record, this was not something that my client provided to me. This is something that we uncovered as we did our due diligence and preparation to come through this process.
Today.
I'm sorry?
Today, because last month they didn't have this either.
Did I uncover it today? Is that the question?
You've prepared based on this for today's meeting.
I have this.
Last month, Eric did not have this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that, but yes, I have that information, and I have reviewed that information, and, you know, we certainly, in some part based the filing of the application on that information, and, we are asking that we use a 2023 standard for the purpose of, how this property is developed. Back then, they were coming in and either developing an undeveloped property or redeveloping a property, and it was spooky. It was a C4, and they were asking for lots of things: reduced setback, parking reduction. You have that board order with those variances in front of you, and it was unknown and it was unproven. So the applicant then came forward. They built the building they said they were going to build. They did the perimeter landscaping they said they were going to install. They've had tenants in the building that have been a contributing positive force in the neighborhood throughout time. To my knowledge, there's not been a single code enforcement issue. It's regarded as a nice property and a well-maintained property, and has since it was built back in 04, 05. So, you know, a lot has changed in the city of Columbus in terms of development these past many years. Certainly, you know, when I started doing this type of work, the word density was, you know, almost a 4-letter word. You couldn't go anywhere and talk about that. And now all of a sudden we are having a conversation that we've all got to very urgently create affordable housing in our community. So it's just a different world. It's in many ways a different town. And we are in here to talk about 2023 and a parking reduction and some older stipulations put on a board order based upon a very intense, heated conversation with the Clintonville Area Commission at that time. We've re-engaged in that conversation. The Clintonville Area Commission, again, both their zoning and variance committee and their full commission and the planning staff who reviewed this historical information, who reviews this in the context of their plan, the traffic management department, all of them are recommending approval of this variance because in 2023, a multi-tenant retail strip along High Street in a pedestrian neighborhood on the bus route that's willing to provide for bike parking, a 19 space reduction is appropriate. And let me want to talk about the Duncan factors. It's you know the standard that we're really here to talk about. It's not often discussed in this in this process, but I think in this case, because there are some questions and we do have the opportunity tonight to make our record. As this goes forward, I do want to state those Duncan factors and how the application meets them. The Duncan factors are derived from a case called Duncan versus Middlefield. It's an Ohio Supreme Court case that established the criteria for a board such as this to review when considering area variances like the parking reduction variance that we are here to talk about tonight. And the law says you don't have to comply with all of the Duncan factors. You have to meet a majority of the Duncan factors. So the first is whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. I would concede that a retail space could come into this, or another bank could come into this and wouldn't need a variance. And so there could be some other beneficial use made of the property. The next is whether the variance is substantial. And I don't think it's substantial, but don't take my word for it. The Clintonville Area Commission doesn't think it's substantial. The Traffic Management Department doesn't think it's substantial, and the city planning and zoning professionals do not think it's substantial. So on that basis, I would argue that the variance being requested here is not substantial.
I don't know that anybody said that it wasn't.
I know, but I'm just making the record for the Duncan factors. Yes, sir. I'm just making the argument based upon the Duncan factors. And I'm trying to demonstrate to the board that we do meet a majority of those Duncan factors. The third Duncan factor is whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether adjoining property owners would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. That's the Duncan factors. This is High Street through Clintonville on a C4 zone piece of property. This is proposing a modest parking reduction that the city professionals and the Clintonville Area Commission don't object to. And so on that basis, I would say that we are not altering the essential character of the neighborhood, certainly not substantially altering the essential character of the neighborhood, and neither will adjoining properties suffer a substantial detriment as a result of variance. Substantial detriment. We already have a neighborhood that exists, as you can see here, along a C4 corridor through Clintonville. All of the red is some variation of C4 commercial, CPD, C3, et cetera. The yellow is residential that lives along that spine. So I think on that basis, we meet condition number 3 of the Duncan factors. The next is whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water, sewer, and garbage. No impact whatsoever on any delivery of any governmental service. Whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. I don't believe this property owner did. It's really interesting, and we sit here, and I've spent 20 years doing this. We know that the Columbus zoning code is a very complicated maze, and navigating it is often complicated for guys that do it for a living, certainly complicated for someone that's an investor buying a commercial property along High Street. So the question is, did that particular owner understand that if he converted a bank use to a restaurant use, did he know that he was going to have to come through a process and go through that along a commercial corridor? I'd like to make the argument that no, he didn't. Whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. In order to introduce a restaurant space here into this center tenant area and introduce some outdoor dining space in the front of the restaurant, there is no other course but to request a variance or rezone the property to a CPD into which you incorporate some variances. So there is no other method. The last is, and this is the 7th, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Well, zoning is not here to gird out reasonable uses of property. Zoning is here to provide some guardrails for the use and development of property. And Here, I think we've accomplished that. We have a situation where we have a developed property. The uses are the uses. You can use this for the C4 uses, the restaurants and the retail. We have a very mature perimeter buffer here, which we certainly commit to maintaining here. So with reference to the last, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance, I believe that it would, especially in light of the fact that the city's professionals, both from an engineering perspective, traffic management, both from a zoning perspective, from a planning perspective, are all here recommending approval, that they believe it is consistent with the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement, but not just them, also a unanimous body of both the Zoning and Variance Committee and the full commission of the Clintonville Area Commission. So having addressed those 7 factors, I would argue that we meet 6 of them. Some may say 5, some may even say 4, but even if we meet 4, we meet a majority of those Duncan factors based upon this presentation, which warrants the approval of a reduction in this parking requirement.
I have a question for staff. If we say yes to this, so there were 26 conditions, and to your point, relief was sought for 1. So does that mean that the 25 remain in effect?
I believe so.
So if we say yes to this,
We're adding 1 too.
right,
We're adding 6 committing 6 bicycle spaces.
so,
Which they are, one of the bullet points was to provide bike parking. It didn't stipulate how many, but in the previous one there, that was part of it as well.
so I'll say to you, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate everything that you've pointed out, and I agree. It's 2023. What's to come? You know, they dodged a bullet, right? And it wasn't as bad as maybe what they anticipated. I would say to you, we do need to continue to look forward. We've talked about precedent tonight, historical experiences. Us saying yes to this based on what staff's telling me doesn't give you relief from having off-site parking for employees. Right? Us giving you a variance to reduce the parking, and you're clear on that, right?
I mean, my intention is to have this site having been proven with what's happened historically is that this was looked at anew. And, you know, it doesn't make any sense to go provide 15 off-site parking spaces or whatever the requirement is for employees and all that. So I'm not looking to maintain a commitment to all of the conditions put back on this in 2003.
And that was my question. Can he not? These are still, I mean, they're conditions that were applied. And I think in order to be code compliant, I'm asking because I don't know.
It's a good question.
Robert, do you know if if this would repeal those or if they would still be in effect?
Yeah, it's way outside my expertise. I mean, I'm counsel for the board in terms of how they proceed through these matters, but in terms of the substance of the law, yeah, I'm not well versed in this.
The board could repeal them tonight if that's the case.
I mean, because somebody sought to repeal 1 in 2015, and your application doesn't automatically repeal them, which is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, it's my intention that they be repealed because, you know, we didn't.
But the application doesn't ask for that, and the notices went out for that, so I don't think that would be a fair assumption on your part.
It's a flaw in the process, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have to be noticed for that. It would just be part of.
But I think this is
They
why.
noticed in 2015.
Yeah, but I think this is why we stopped.
But we don't provide conditions with the notice.
But I think this is why we stopped conditioning a lot of things because we said we couldn't enforce. And as I look, right, and as I look at this, we would have never put.
Me either, Chair Palmer. I've never seen anything like this.
Right, because you just, who would know, like to your point, like a buyer would never know to go look through BZA records to be looking at things that pass through with the property for all this kind of stuff. This is craziness.
So Chair Palmer Bailey, and I know I've taken up a tremendous amount of time, but I'm going to ask the board if we could take up a little bit more time and talk about these conditions individually on this old board order.
But I don't think that's appropriate though,
No,
because
we're
I
not
don't
gonna do
think, I don't know that I'm well versed in the law on this and what we're allowed to do on this point. I think this is a matter to take up with staff and their bosses and.
Jamie has said that, the one was repealed, the coffee, so all the others are still in effect. You guys could make it part of the motion to repeal the rest or to have them remain.
So I'd say let's vote. You'll be okay with the vote. But I don't think that, these won't be repealed tonight. They will exist.
Yeah, until we're given clarity on authority, appropriateness, what does the city want to do with respect to old conditions that were made?
I mean, they were made for a reason.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call them old, I call them existing.
Yeah.
And you're using the word repeal. I'm looking at 3307.04, which says that the concurring vote of 3 members shall be necessary to reverse or modify any order, requirement, decision, or determination. So you would be reversing a previous.
Yeah, but do we have to have notice given for that if we're gonna be doing that?
Well, I'll be candid, I'm not voting for that tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of coming up on us in the moment.
I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Jones, and while I don't like it, I understand it and can abide by it.
I want to vote tonight.
Understood.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'll be happy to come back another time to revert, like you
You
said.
need to do that. You need to
Reverse,
figure it out.
yeah, reverse these conditions and we can take a vote on that.
Which makes a whole separate issue because like you're not even, I don't know, it's so convoluted
It's
and
crazy.
complicated.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, because you got to pull all the orders on this
Right.
property.
You would definitely want input from city entities
Exactly.
in terms of what their position would be in terms of reversing any one of them.
Yeah, well, how do you do that?
Well, same way they did in 2015.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, there's evidence of what they did and they would just have to do the same thing. So
was that proper? Like, just because they did it? I mean.
it was a hearing. He's saying it was a hearing that came in and they said, we don't want to serve coffee anymore.
Okay.
Christmas.
Are we ready to call the question on the parking spaces from 61 to 40 with the condition that we're adding 6 bicycle parking spaces?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll call the question.
Question has been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes. Variance granted. Good luck with figuring out the rest. We will be here when you.
Maybe we'll be here. I don't know that I'll be here. This was 20 years ago. I don't know. You know when it's coming back.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
3400 North High Street.
I'm just started.
You have not?
No, sir.
Okay, have you?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you promise that the testimony gives tonight with the truth? Nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Yes. You didn't have to stop in your tracks like that, but appreciate it. Okay.
BZA 22-147, 3400 North High Street is located at the southeast corner of North High Street and East North Broadway. Is Zone C4 Commercial District and also located in Glenville Area Commission. The 0.41 acre site is currently developed with a 4-story office building and associated parking. Ground uses include an elementary school to the south, retail commercial to the west and north, and single unit residential to the east. The applicant proposes to make minor exterior renovations to a first floor tenant space, including the addition of a patio, and is requesting a variance to reduce the amount of clear/non-tinted window glass from 60% to 33% along the east-north Broadway facade and to 44% along the North High Street facade. In May of 2020, this property received a variance to reduce the minimum number required parking spaces from 55 to 22 under BZA 19-030. Planning supports the proposal as presented. The Clintonville area plan states that mixed-use buildings should be common on Clintonville's primary corridors. New commercial development should integrate with the existing fabric and scale of the given business district, and a consistent level of detailing and finish should be provided for all sides of the building. The proposal in question meets these guidelines, therefore planning supports the proposal as presented. The right-of-way dedication exception requested, request partial approval that was granted by a letter dated April 10th, 2020 shall be applicable to this application. The necessary additional right-of-way dedication was completed as recorded in instrument 2021-08-120-142210. Clintonville Area Commission recommends approval of this variance, and staff can recommend approval of the requested variance because the proposed use and exterior renovations are consistent with the Clintonville area plan guidelines for structures along the primary corridors.
And so Eleanor, I'll just offer some context here.
Okay.
This would have been approved if we had enough voting board members last.
Oh, okay.
We're good.
Can you state your names? And I know you've been sworn in, so state your names, please.
Steve Hutchison, I'm the owner of the building there at 3400.
Okay.
I'm Tim Kaskowski, applicant architect.
Okay. So do you have anything else to add to this?
We had said it last time, but I'm sure it didn't carry forward because we tabled.
You don't have to say it, yeah.
Well, I wasn't here, so you have to say.
Well, so in general, the variance, the building physically cannot be modified to meet the commercial overlay for the 60% between 2 and 10 feet. And we've provided the screening on the basically public frontage as much as possible by modifying the building to allow these larger openings in the restaurant use, and then infilling it such that it's still structural in the kitchen. So we're at capacity and not able to comply with the current code, which is why we're seeking a variance. Otherwise, the existing facade has to remain unmodified and to the detriment of the building itself and the character of the neighborhood.
Makes sense.
What kind of restaurant is it?
We don't have a tenant yet.
Okay, so you're just building in anticipation. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Okay, is there anybody here who wants to speak about this application?
I'll call a question.
Questions been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Malaka?
Yes.
Chair Colin Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
1288, 1332 Butlerworth.
So I received an email during this meeting that the applicant was going to have to table. I was expecting them to still be here. The reason being is they were going through the right-of-way exemption process. They were expecting to have that back in time. They got all the approvals from all the departments and everyone as of today, but it's still waiting on the administrator's final blessing. So
That would never be a reason for us to say yes or no. It is what it is.
they were afraid to bring it forward before that was taken care of because if they were forced to do the right-of-way dedication, the entire front part of this property is for the parking lot in question, so they would have to request further variances. So that's why they were holding off.
I move that we table, I've even skipped it.
Are you here to speak about this?
Oh, yes.
Oh, so sorry.
You know, it's reflected in the BCA showed up.
Oh, I don't know what record that, yeah.
I mean, we're here from the commission, we're here from the civic association.
Okay.
And we're in support. I wish I had known.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
You don't have any objection to us tabling it?
I didn't know.
Okay, yeah,
I move that we table this case to the next available hearing date.
okay.
Second.
Yeah, notices will go out for the next one because Yeah,
Is she able to make her statements now so she wouldn't have to?
I prefer
come back?
not.
no,
Okay.
because we won't have it on record for the meeting that we had scheduled.
Mr. Wilco?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Felon Bailey?
Yes,
And
tabled.
if you're just coming in support, you don't have to be here. I mean, you can send a letter of support.
We like to come, so you know when we support and we poo-poo.
See you next time.
Is 17 still going?
It's like it.
Yes. Oh, wow.
190, 5 minutes. Thank you. Exactly.
Pretty much. You've already said it on there. Just trying to see it. Good. Still get it. What's it going on? $8,000 for this bill. It says, what's the cost of doing business? They wouldn't give money. And I feel like.
Because this people. So it's trying to find anything.
I just want to make sure. It doesn't sound like that's fine.
I know, it's like, you try.
So you know.
Yeah, we're gonna, I have one person. I'll just try now.
17th the last one.
Yeah. We had a total of 17 grams.
It's just fun, it's kind of in their meeting. I don't think we'll be able to hit that meeting back in time.
This.
Tonight, right?
I still have no love for it.
Didn't seem like they were gonna be contentious, that like.
And I feel like, did you see, I was reading that email where they said it's more complicated. They bought it knowing. So I think everyone's in touch with that's damning too.
I just wish I could touch it.
Clearly.
Wait, don't.
What's up? Yeah, I'm fried. Because we have getting one of those like visual things of like, I've been staring at a screen now for.
Jamie cleared it up.
But no,
Well,
the
memories.
requirement was it not?
It is not. Oh,
But then why not? Because the thing is, you put us on the map. We're saying.
none of it's a requirement. It's if we encourage and recommend that they do because they're boots on the ground. They know more than we know. We got 5 minutes to deal with this. They're boots on the ground, so getting their synopsis or hearing what they thought is important. And I think when you rehash everything, you need to go back and then figure it out. They shouldn't have even been here day one without a resolution for that. In most circumstances, people are involved in where they table this and they table us until they get resolution. I think so. I feel like we're giving this. I don't have to go back to court and say, they didn't give us a chance. We're giving them Sunday chance. Demonstrated that now. Hungry? We don't need to, right? That's the downside about living down there. I can't even stop anywhere. I gotta go out and get something to eat. My way.
Shoot, I know the things in that line, so long,
Yeah. Like Chick-fil-A, they stayed staffed.
No, I think came from Chick-fil-A.
You can. I mean, I like them, but I mean, Chick-fil-A, they have two.
I like Hanesville.
They're doing, it's like, because of the requirements for the bypass lane, they technically three. Yeah, so the newer site plans that we've seen.
Yeah, the one I was in.
Well, so my niece and nephew worked at Chick-fil-A, and they said that corporate is like giving each store the permission to just do whatever you can do in your, with your driver's license.
Oh, it's a
They don't
different
have
work.
to
Yeah.
figure out what you can do. Okay. Y'all just want to start 2023 off with a bang.
Keep us in 2020.
Yes, this is good for good growth and development in Columbus.
Yeah, it's true.
191 West 8th Avenue. State your name, sir, whether you've been sworn in.
Michael Church, yes, I've been.
Okay.
191 West 8th Avenue is located on the south side of West 8th Avenue, approximately 140 feet east of Washington, or Worthington Street, I'm sorry. It is zoned AR4 apartment residential and is part of the University Area Commission. The 0.11 acre site is developed with a 2-unit residential dwelling. Surrounding uses are primarily single and multi-unit dwellings. Applicant proposes to rehabilitate an existing multi-unit dwelling and construct a room addition to the rear of the dwelling. Variances are being requested to legitimize the existing side yards and lot width. Planning generally supports the proposed variances. The University District Plan recommends this site for medium intensity residential uses, which calls for a maximum FAR of 0.06 height limit of 30 feet. A maximum of 8 parking spaces can be double stacked and a minimum of 12% landscaped open space behind the principal structure. The plan also recommends that the scale and proportion of additions be compatible with those of contributing building that the contrast between old and new be reflected with contemporary design and materials, and that the street trees and site landscape be provided. As variants work to legitimize the existing site, planning generally supports the proposal. Planning does recommend that the rear parking be reduced by 2 spaces to increase the rear yard open space, that a shade tree be included in the front yard, and that the siding material on the addition be differentiated from the original structure to further align with plan design guidelines. The University Area Commission recommends approval of the request, and staff recommend approval as the requested variances are to legitimize the existing site.
Mr. Church, have anything to add to the application?
Only to reiterate that, the University Commission approved it, the University Review Board approved it, and that the 3 variances that I'm asking for are to the existing house. Anything on the new room addition complies with all the rules.
Thanks for that clarification. Is there anybody here to speak about this application? Board members, do we have any questions?
No. I'll call the question.
Question has been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Adam.
6316 Tussing Road. Hi, can you state your name and whether you've been sworn in?
Jordan Zickapoose, I have.
Okay. And then you can sign in the sheet there. Thank you.
6316 Tussing Road. It's located on the north side of Tussing Road, approximately 270 feet east of Bryce Road. Zone C4 Commercial District and located in the Far East Area Commission. The 1.62 acre site is developed with a restaurant, Chipotle, and a parking lot. Surrounding uses include restaurants to the east, retail, and restaurants to the north, a gas station to the west, and a shopping center to the south containing primarily retail. The applicant proposes to install a drive-up pickup window and a stacking lane, and is requesting a variance to provide no bypass lane for a pickup unit with a drive-up service. Planning is in full support of the proposal. Columbus citywide planning policies, design guidelines recommend drive-through pickup windows be located to the rear or side of the principal building. The updated site plan includes enhanced landscaping along the Tussing Road frontage to screen parking and circulation, consistent with C2P2 guidelines. Staff also note and support the additional landscaping along the east property line. A right-of-way dedication of 80 feet from the center line of Bryce Road and 50 feet from the center line of Tussing Road will be required, but I believe they've had discussions with traffic, and that will be handled after the fact. The Far East Area Commission recommends approval of this variance. Staff can recommend approval of the requested variance because the pickup window is located on the side of the building, and the applicant has provided landscaping to screen the parking lot and the drive-up lane from the right-of-way and adjacent properties. Staff is requesting the condition that if a use is established on the site, that would include a drive-through order station, then a bypass lane will need to be provided.
I have a question. What's your name?
Jordan Zicafus from Sands Decker with the civil.
Okay. Isn't this an existing restaurant?
Says
It doesn't have a drive-through?
it does not.
Now, Sands Decker is what?
With the civil engineer.
Oh, the civil engineer.
Yeah.
Is it it's a new restaurant?
No, they're adding an addition, pickup window additions.
It's not there now. The restaurant's there, but the window is not.
Right.
Okay.
Here's active construction site photos.
Okay. Oh, this is an old Taco Bell?
Chipotle.
There's a.
The end of Chipotle.
What?
That's what they call it.
It's a Chipotle.
They call it Chipotle. Come on, y'all.
Cane's, Chipotle.
They call it Chipotle. They don't know.
I find it remarkable that there's not an existing drive-through there.
Chipotle didn't have drive-throughs.
They didn't?
No, they just now have them.
I don't know.
We pretty much got this.
But they don't know.
Okay.
Is anybody here want to speak about the application who knows about Chipotle's? Okay. You ready for the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Malco?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, good luck on the project.
Thank you.
252 East Beck Street. Can you state your names, whether you've been sworn in?
Yep, Nathan Sampson, and I've not yet been sworn in.
Okay.
Chelsea Dwyer, I've not.
Okay, raise your right hand. You promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, and the truth, please say I do.
I do.
Okay.
BZA 22162, 252 East Beck Street is located at the northeast corner of Cedar Alley and East Beck Street. It's part of the German Village Commission. Current zoning is a R2F residential district. The 0.13 acre site is currently developed with a 2-story single unit dwelling. The site is surrounded on all sides by a mix of single unit and multi-unit dwellings, including a 3-unit dwelling directly north of the site at 576 and 580 Cedar Ave. The applicant proposes to adjust the north property line shared with the aforementioned 3-unit dwelling in order to seat approximately 55 square feet to 576 to 580 Cedar Alley. The applicant is thus requesting a variance to reduce the minimum lot size from 6,000 square feet to 5,799 square feet. The applicant is also requesting a variance to reduce the minimum lot width from 50 feet to 48 feet to legitimize an existing condition. We should note that the existing lot size is also already non-conforming at 5,854 square feet. Planning has no comment as there is no council adopted plan for this area. The Division of Traffic Management likewise has no comments. At the time of writing this report, we had not received a recommendation from the German Village Commission. However, after the publication of this report, we have received that COA. We have that here if you care to take a look at it. City Park Department's recommendation is to approve this variance request. Staff can recommend approval because the lot line adjustment being proposed would result in minimal changes to the total area of both affected lots. Furthermore, the new lot line will promote equity by rectifying blocked access to the receiving property's side yard. Here.
Yeah, these seem to be minimal changes. Anything you'd like to add to this application?
We're pretty much just enlarging from 30 inches to 3 feet to make it a little bit more accessible, basically.
It's, side yard access.
Good. Anybody here to speak about this application?
I'll call the question.
Questions been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Chair Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted.
Thank you very much.
2908, 94 Hayden Road. Can you state your name, whether you've been sworn?
I'm John Stevenson, attorney for the applicant with Cooperman, Mental, Ferguson, Yaros. I have not been sworn.
Raise your hand. Have you been sworn in?
I've not.
Okay,
I'll
great.
be one.
And I promise that the testimony you give tonight with the truth, nothing but the truth, please state I do.
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
2908-94, Hayden Road is located on the north side of Hayden Road, approximately 80 feet west of Bethel Road. It is zoned C4 commercial and is part of the Northwest Civic Association. The 2.76 acre site is developed with a 31,521 square foot commercial shopping center containing eating and drinking establishments, offices, retail, and an aquatic center. Surrounding uses include an eating and drinking establishment to the north, multi-unit residential to the east and west, and a fuel station and convenience store to the south. The applicant proposes to convert 3 units at addresses 2918, 2930, 2966 in the shopping center, totaling 4,465 square feet from office to retail. The uses are primarily permitted by the current zoning district, but will require 8 additional parking spaces in connection with the changed use. Planning generally supports the proposal, but requests additional landscaping and screening between the parking lot and Hayden Road. Pedestrian connectivity from sidewalk to the building, bicycle parking, and site plan clarification. The Northwest Plan recommends that parking be balanced with the goal of creating walkable and bikeable neighborhoods that encourage the use of transit. It proposes criteria for evaluating parking reduction requests in the area such as access to transit, pedestrian connectivity, and the provision of bicycle facilities beyond that required by code. Additionally, landscaping installation should be provided, buffering and screening, create and define space, and provide shade and aesthetic appeal. An example of this is the parking lot screening with blocks headlights. The staff notes that the lack of landscaping along Hayden Road and the current need for pedestrians to access the site via the vehicular entrance should be provided. Staff also requests clarification of the red boxes of the site plan that signify these reasons. Planning generally supports the proposal, but requests additional landscaping and screening between the parking lot and Hayden Road, pedestrian connectivity from the sidewalks to the building, bicycle parking, and site plan clarification. The Division of Traffic Management states that the right-of-way dedication exception approval letter dated 10/4/2019 will be applicable to this application. Accessible parking spaces will need to meet the requirements of the Department of Public Service accessible parking space specification. The Northwest Civic Association recommends approval of the request. And staff can recommend approval as the Division of Traffic Management and Parking Services staff were satisfied with the types of uses of the center and the number of available parking spaces. And the condition is that we're asking for is that staff requests that the site plan be stamped to memorialize the additional landscaping and screening between the parking lot and Hayden Road, pedestrian connectivity from the sidewalk to the building, and bicycle parking.
Okay, you're fine with this as the final site plan to be stamped?
So just to clarify, is it this site plan that yeah, that looks like, right. So that's one that we sent to planning that they then approved for all this.
Okay, anything else to add to the application?
Happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
We had a variance here before.
Right, same site.
19? That long ago?
No, it was last year.
Last year? Okay, I can't remember. What was that for again?
It's on parking as well.
It was, yep, to convert a portion of an office space to a restaurant.
I remembered something.
Memory.
What happened?
You'd like to speak on this application, ma'am? Please state your name for the record.
Monica Tuttle, I'm with Northwest Civic Association. We're in support of the site plan, although they proposed stuffing in some additional parking spots if absolutely necessary. On review of the parking, we're absolutely in support of the reduction.
Do we have any more questions?
Absolutely not.
I will call the question.
Mr. Maleko? Mr. Maleko?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Yes. Sarah Palmer Bailey?
Yes. Thanks, Brandon, thank you.
8:15 almost.
Eleanor?
You guys don't want to go through the Duncan factors again?
I don't think that you even heard it. I think you were like, so.
But you know, to your point, Eleanor, I think absolutely, the fact that it's public record, they have an obligation, and you know, with them buying that